Good morning, campers. It's the last couple days of November. Welcome to Midnight's Edge in the Morning. It's Monday. Hopefully you got your coffee handy and you're ready to roll. We have with us this morning the boss man, Andre. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Looking forward to talking about all the great movies that came out this weekend.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about either, Culture. That is Culture Casino there on the far right. How you doing?
I'm great. It's a wonderful Monday morning for me, and it's been a great day so far. I'm excited. I haven't seen anything that flop this hard in a long time. I can't wait to talk about it.
This is Mars Needs Moms levels, but we're going to get to that in just a moment. Speaking of Mars needing moms, Script, I'm sure you would love to go to Mars someday, wouldn't you?
When it has air.
A hell of a segue.
I'll go when it has air. That'd be awesome. If it doesn't have air, I don't want it.
And welcome, Script Doctor from the Great White North, anyway. Maybe not the Great Red Planet.
It's almost as cold as it is in Mars right here.
It's cold as hell, according to Elton John.
Yeah.
But I see where you're coming from, because like up here in the Nordic, we have the most amazing air, don't we? And we'd miss that if we had to go to Mars.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And also joining us, the one, the only, Mr. Chris Gore of Film Thread. How are you doing today?
Doing well, Tom. Thank you so much. I'm just
injecting coffee.
Yes, injecting coffee. I'm in need of coffee. I have that Thanksgiving hangover. So in a good way. In a good way. So yeah.
Well, we're glad to have you here, and I, of course, am Tom Connors. Hit that like button, share out the stream if you haven't already. But I bring up Mars Needs Moms for a reason, because good Lord Almighty, the parallels between that and Strange World. In fact, unless Strange World has a really decent second weekend, Andre, this may end up beating Mars Needs Moms.
Yeah. If I may add to that, if this has a really, really awesome second weekend, and also if pigs fly and stuff like that, then yeah, because all of those things are about as likely.
For some context, for those who don't know, Mars Needs Moms is famously, it's probably still the biggest flop in history. Last time I checked, it was. Meaning it cost the most money and lost the most money. And at this point, okay, Mars Needs Moms cost $150 million, made $39 million. Right now, Strange Worlds costs $180 million. And unless it has like a, $12, $15 million weekend next weekend, it ain't beating that 39 million.
Yeah.
So it ain't even going to come close. So this is going to be a new biggest flop of all time for Disney.
Yeah, probably. So basically, this is Mars Needs Moms all over again, with shades of light here, just to make it perfect.
Yes, and let's not forget about Lightyear. I haven't even compared it to that, because I think Lightyear might have beat Mars Needs Moms even, so who knows?
And let's not forget about John Carter either, that Andrew Stanton messed up so spectacularly.
Luckily,
yes,
John Carter managed
to...
The thing is with John Carter is, I think it cost that much more, but it at least managed to make like close to 300 million. The difference was being it just didn't make enough to constitute continuing the series. That's kind of where that was.
And interestingly, that movie was actually made by Pixar director Andrew Stanton using the Pixar School of Filmmaking, which is why it was so expensive as it was. So, yeah, there's definitely an animation theme in the flops going on here. That and Disney.
Yeah, for sure.
Lightyear luckily did closer to like John Carter numbers. Okay. Because Lightyear cost 200 million and made 226. So it didn't make any money actually, but it's not going to be as harshly. It's not going to be as big of a deal as this.
It's $100 million underwater.
And then people also bring up the Lone Ranger, which is up there. I know that one's like the third or fourth one. Their box office for Lone Ranger was 260 with a budget of 250. So yeah. That's what I'm saying. At least those movies made about half their money. This movie is not even going to make half its money.
And if you're a big company, if you're the size of Disney, you can weather, the occasional like catastrophic performance. You can't do that multiple times a year. It's not good.
And the only person here who's seen it is Chris. But anyway, go ahead, Andre. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was about to say, yeah, you can weather the occasional bomb, but here's like the thing. Which thing has Disney had that has overperformed this year compared to what has underperformed?
Nothing.
Versus everything. Everything has underperformed or bombed, which was the case with both Lightyear and now Strange Worlds. I'm so tempted to say Star Trek Strange Worlds.
That Spider-Man money might have helped a little bit, but I don't think they made that much off it. But now,
yeah, but that was last year's. That was last year's money.
Technically, you're right. Yes. Here's the kicker, though. I think they're going to have some issues with the Avatar, but we'll get into that in just a few minutes. I want to ask Chris what he thought of Strange Worlds before we go too far beyond that.
Yes, do share.
Well, I saw Strange World, and I think it's one of the worst things ever put out by Disney Animation Studios. The story, because it's really hard to glean a story from the trailer, which, by the way, I saw incessantly every time I went to the movies. I know people have complained that the film was not properly promoted. That is false. The trailer ran constantly at theaters. It was even, if you watch ESPN, one of those lower thirds where they promote a movie sort of at the bottom of the screen. So I believe it didn't get any more nor less promotion than any typical Disney animation release. But it's what it is, frankly, is like one of the teachers that you would see featured on Libs of TikTok wrote a script for a movie, and then they just made that movie. This is just how god awful this thing is. Where I gotta look up because I want to make sure to get the names right. I know that Jake Gyllenhaal plays the main.
Jake Gyllenhaal is the only one I know. Yeah, I was gonna say good luck on the rest.
He plays the father, but it's the Clade family, right? So Jake Gyllenhaal plays Searcher Clade. His wife is Meriden Clade, and it's Dennis Quaid plays Iger Clade, who is this incredibly manly man of action hero, quick with a weapon, and brave beyond, and then Searcher has a son. He's in a relationship. He is white character, his white wife Meridian Clade is black, and they have a mixed race son named Ethan Clade, who is pining and has butterflies in his stomach over the boy that he has a crush on. So that's part of it. So he's a teenager, has a crush on this boy. There's something going on in their world, and they go into travel into this mountainous cavern to discover why this plant that Searcher brought back, which is basically a power source for this a utopian society. Literally in the first minutes, you meet Searcher and Meriden and their mixed race son, who's gay and has this crush on a boy. They have a dog that is disabled, is missing, his front paws, doesn't have that. Then you see someone in a wheelchair. It's like this, it's like the a Libs of TikTok teacher wrote this script. It's just everything under the rainbow for everybody. The president of this land is a woman of, sort of unspecified ethnic descent. So because of this threat, they travel into whatever this, it's sort of a dollar store Dr. Seuss is what it looks like. It's not particularly, if you've seen the trailer, it's just sort of like wait, this is it? What is it? Are they on another planet? Did they travel here? I thought they traveled in a spaceship just from watching the trailer. I'm like, oh, that's really weird. They must have come there in a spaceship. And no, it's just sort of the interior of this planet. But the whole thing is just like this incredible indictment of toxic masculinity, because the young boy, Ethan Clade, in this scene, they very explicitly spell it out. He's sitting there and they're playing a card game. The point of the card game is for everyone to come together and solve this problem. But of course, Searcher and his dad, Iger Clade, let's solve it with violence. Like, where's the guns? Let's do this. And it's like, no, those kind of games are lame. And, of course, the son ends up saving the day and figuring everything out when no one else could. But it's god awful. I mean, obviously, it's an hour 48 minutes or something. So it's over 90 minutes. Not going to hold a kid's attention span. Teenagers are going to think it's lame. And it's just interesting when you look at Disney's history, right? When you look at that, this is a movie that features, and look, I don't have any problem with gay characters in films at all. I just feel like when it's sort of projected, it's like this thing where they're sort of loudly telling you, hey, look what we have. We have this gay, where it's just like, it doesn't even matter to the story, right? But I felt as I was watching it in the theater with all of 6 other people that I felt like, wow, and like there were parts where Alan Ng, my co-conspirator over at Film Threat, was saying someone was sitting behind them. There was a little boy, had to be like 10 years old. And every time any sort of the subject of the gay character came up in his journey, the father would talk to his son to kind of distract him so he wouldn't see it, right? Didn't want his 10-year-old necessarily to be exposed to this, but finally come to the conclusion, when you look at everything that Disney has produced, has had some kind of inclusion of gay characters, right? Some in ways that can be distracting and some not so much. We had America Chavez and Doctor Strange, obviously Thor, just everything that Disney has done or been a part of. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. It's in everything. And it's at the point where just like, my kids are not single digit age, but I would not trust, after all, I just would not trust Disney as a brand to take a young child to a film. I wouldn't trust them. I even suggested on our Film Threat livecast on Friday, which, please check it out. I had a whole rant on, like, I just think at this point, Disney needs to just spin off a separate brand. I feel like families that just want to be entertained, Disney should go back to making those movies. Like your 90s 2D animated musical features, I think are classics. They're all classics for a reason. They're broad appeal, and you can sit there and enjoy it, right? But they just need to do a separate brand to call it Disney Sparkle and just have it be all gay stuff. I mean, all the characters are gay as you could possibly get. Make sure that there are princesses and princes, and they're not all.
But that makes it harder to groom, Chris.
Right.
Well, Chris, is this separate studio entity headed up by Eichner, Billy Eichner?
Yeah, no, it's what it's going to be headed up by is everyone who wants that stuff in mainstream Disney stuff that appeals to that would appeal
Rainbow Disney.
Yeah, just call it Rainbow or Disney Sparkle or whatever you want to call it. And just seriously, I don't think there's, and first of all, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that actually would be a smart move to do that, because look, I've been covering independent film since I was a kid. And so none of these themes like surprise me, right? What surprises me is that they're being included in more broad and mainstream entertainment for families. That is surprising and shocking. Look, I've seen gay themed films since forever.
Yeah.
They're big hits at art houses and film festivals, and it is a limited market. And what Disney has been doing is is they've been infusing themes that appeal to a limited market and putting it in mainstream entertainment. And the failed box office of this film Strange World should be an indicator that these ideas do not resonate, and the audience that supports those ideas won't even support the film. So what you do, spin off a label, call it Disney Sparkle, make it super gay. Everything is just gay all day, right? And just, cartoons, you got a little logo that's at the beginning. It says Disney Sparkle. You know what you're in for. And you as a parent can make an informed decision and decide, do I want to expose my kids to this? And you can choose whether to or not.
Or how about you just not put sexuality in Disney movies, period? But
that would be great. But what I'm saying is to placate people within your company that may be a thing, and then it either succeeds or fails based on its own merits. But you know what you're getting into. You know, if you go see something from Disney Sparkle, that you know what you're going to get, and then that's fine.
So you want to launch like a Groom Disney, right?
right.
And you want to basically create a WNBA for those particular types of projects.
That would be the idea. It would literally be like the WNBA, where they're overspending to try and make it a thing, and nobody cares about the WNBA.
Okay.
So I happen to know that the team is the LA Sparks. There you go. But what I'm saying is then you can actually see, it's like, okay, let's do this. Let's put a pause on these things that are turning off parents, our primary demographic. As much as there are Disney adults, right? Like that is a real thing. Primarily family entertainment. Let's segment it off. Let's segment the audience, and that will either succeed or fail. And then you actually get to see it. Now, I just know from having covered independent film for a long time that independent films are made for very little money, and then they make very little money. And look, 18 million to a small indie movie is huge. If you make that indie movie for $1 million and it makes 18 million at the box office, huge success. So you need to scale this to the audience that supports it, right? You need to scale it. I mean, even when I did this movie years ago called My Big Fat Independent Movie, and I just looked at like, well, how much money do spoof films? It's a parody movie of independent films. How much money do those make? Let's not make the movie for more than X amount of dollars so that we can at least make money. And we made money. They paid us more for the rights to it than we made it for. So profitable. And I don't understand. Hollywood seems to have lost all sense in this, where to me, it's just a very simple equation. And the equation for success for every entertainment property is very different. It's very different to get to success, but there needs to be more, I hate to say this, just bean counters behind the scenes going, we really should make this movie for X amount because the market is this. The market is really this. And unless we get, we're not going to get 100% of the market that this is targeting. So,
No, you're right. But unfortunately, there's a lot of different types of bean counters. There's those that say, well, if you spend X amount, it's going to make exactly this amount. And that X amount usually happens to be $100 million plus. And then there's the others that are saying you don't need to spend $100 million if you want to make money off of this type of movie. And those two are at odds. And the reason they're at odds is because you have a lot of executives who are thinking, well, if the budget's $100 million or plus, that means more money for me during the production cycle. And it also gives them the potential to make more money on the back end through whatever other deals that they score. So they want that bigger paycheck up front. And that's basically counter to something that's good for the survivability of the studio, where they're making very affordable films of high quality that have a high return.
Right.
It's high return comes much later than when they want it. And that's one of the issues.
Well, the problem with studios, the major studios, they don't know how to make things for cheap. And it's not as if those studios, like something like an A24, which is a division of Warner Brothers, a lot of the things that A24 releases are acquired. So they're films that are produced independently, financed and produced. A lot of overseas money, or just sort of creative, putting together funding sources from a lot of different places. The movie is made, then debuts on the festival circuit, and something like an A24 distribution company will come in and acquire that film, so it's made without the top heaviness of a studio, right? And I just think that announcing that there's a couple things by announcing, say, a Disney Sparkle brand supporting LGBTQ plus projects, how that like solves a lot of problems. One, there's transparency about like how successful these things are and what the market really is, because I think it's way overrepresented what people think the market is for that. In addition, it kind of makes people within the Disney company happy. And then I think it would restore trust in the Disney brand, that if I'm going to go see a Disney family movie, it's a Disney family movie. I'm not having to have uncomfortable conversations with my 9-year-old about what's going on in this film, right? It's played off fairly innocently, but at the same time, like, I feel very fortunate because my kids didn't have to go through this. They're the things that they watched when they were kids. None of these things were ever really an issue, or it was underneath the surface, like C-3PO or Dr. Smith from the original Lost in Space, which are clearly very gay characters.
Oh, Christopher Gore, I think we need to talk about your bigotry.
Wow. I'm just saying, who cares? I think that from a financial standpoint, they would be wise.
It's problematic.
It would placate people within the company. Then you actually see it either fails or succeeds based on its merits, and also puts a little bit more pressure to succeed. $180 million budget for this. Who read the script? And by the way, this thing must have been well into production when Iger was in charge.
Oh yeah, it was.
I was about to say, you asked who read the script and gave it green light. That would be Bob Iger.
Yep.
Or maybe someone read it to him, or he just read the
Someone
cover.
read it to him. Yeah.
He read coverage.
Yeah,
He
okay,
read
fine.
coverage.
Someone read it to him. But anyway,
just saying,
he knew the contents, and Bob Iger approved of it.
I just think it's mind-boggling and shows how completely out of touch the Hollywood elites are with your average moviegoer, right? They can't even predict. They can't figure out what budget really suits a particular type of film based on the market. And part of this, I think, part of the reason for the failure of this is not only was the trailer didn't really tell you much about it. I thought they went to outer space. I didn't know what was going on. They're on a weird planet. Okay, it was.
They're not in outer space.
No, they're not in outer space. I mean, I could give it away if you.
Go for it. No, go.
Yeah, go for
Okay,
it.
Everyone else is going to go see it.
No, is everyone cool with spoilers? Everyone this is your spoiler warning.
I'm sure we can throw like a spoiler warning in the off chance that one or two of the 2,000 watching doesn't want spoilers, but
Here's a spoiler. I've always been gay. I'm a bear running around without pants. That's nothing.
Actually, that's more just indecent exposure. But if you want to see a better movie where Dennis Quaid is the father to Jake Gyllenhaal, there's The Day After Tomorrow.
Oh, that's true. I remember that. That was great.
No, I don't think anybody's worried about spoilers, because not only that, isn't this movie coming to? Didn't they already announce it's coming to Disney Plus fairly early, Culture?
This should have gone direct to streaming.
I think it's going to be there in like a few weeks or whatever before Christmas.
Yeah, it's not that far away from it. And here's the thing: the argument that's being made right now, Chris, and this is one you're going to appreciate, is that they couldn't take it directly to streaming because that would have been a gut kick to all of the people that worked on the film. And it would show that the company is backing down on its radical gay agenda. Now,
the company is going to do that now anyway. I can guarantee it. And then Bob Iger is going to take credit for it, for continuing Chapek's policies. Like I said this in the video that I put out 1 week ago, when we learned of Chapek's ousting, that now one of two things is going to happen. Either Iger is going to double down hardcore, as the most likely, or the less likely, but still within the realm of possibility, is that Iger would use this disaster right here and see there's no way forward down in wokeness. So now we're going to continue Chapek's policies and back out of it again. And with this box office right here, now you have two disastrous results. Some of Disney's owners, like your BlackRocks and stuff like that, they would love for Disney to continue to go all in, obviously. But Disney has a fiduciary responsibility to all of the other shareholders as well. And they can't continue down this direction. It would be a dereliction of fiduciary duties and open them to lawsuits if they did.
Well, I don't know about that. I think if I'm a shareholder in Disney, I would be pissed off that they cared more about the feelings of their employees than my money. And those employees who worked hard on this, many of them will be unemployed. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're going to be.
So it's sort of ridiculous at this stage to be concerned about that. But what you find out is that there's this energy source that is being harvested via a farm, that the Clade family owns. But what this is really a disease, because what they're living on is a giant living organism, because they go through to the other side of this place that they're living on and see a giant eye. So the creature is so large, all they can see is that a giant eye is sort of staring at these microscopic people that are effectively germs in this ecosystem.
So it's COVID the movie.
No.
Well, it's an allegory for the living planet Earth garbage.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you have the environmental message.
Yeah.
Right. So then you pull out at the very, very end of the movie, you pull out and you see it looks like an Earth-like planet, and there's a giant turtle.
Pull out.
Is the moon on its back, or the flat Earth on its back, or something?
No. It's just it's a globe, the Earth, but like with a turtle the size of like a small continent or a large island, and that's what the people who live on this world are living around this giant turtle. It doesn't really explain exactly like all the creatures that are inside. I would assume that those are germs fighting back or whatever. But God, it's such an annoying movie. It's so self-righteous and irritating and anti-male and just so agenda-filled. And of course, everything is perfect in this land of diversity. It's like everyone's diverse, disabled dog, it's the perfect world. It's the perfect world, and it's so cringe when you watch it that it's I don't know, it's just annoying, right? Like so I don't know, man. Who read that script and thought this was a good idea? Like that, make a short film. A lot of Disney actually even has like a thing where they have it might even be called Spark Shorts or something, where they make these short films, and they all have some sort of agenda / message. Every single one of these short
ones with the where the kid had a bad leg and he got a pet dog that had no legs but in a wheelchair type of thing, and they played outside with them. Those kind of things. And there was the heavier woman who's dancing, taking the dance class, as if there haven't been people that are heavy in Disney projects. There's been tons of them. It just never was pointed out. So in any case, I really think that you take all this stuff and you just spin it off into another brand. You make it a small division. It succeeds or fails, and if it fails, you kill the division. Like, I just think that what's happening is things that, because it's a weird thing with me. Like, it's like, oh, that's interesting. But these are all themes and concepts, ideas that have been included in small movies that perform moderately well for a small indie film. The point is, that's the market. The market is a smaller market. It's not a $100 million Disney spectacular it has to appeal to everybody. And this thing is just...
Well, this movie basically already failed when it was called Osmosis Jones, it sounds like to me.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Osmosis Jones. I remember thinking that was kind of interesting.
It was interesting, but it didn't do very well at the box office. So.
No, it did not do well, but I did see it in a theater with my kids.
Yeah, I thought it was cute enough. It was fine for what it was.
It was totally fine. But Yeah, I don't know. I think that look, because I think as parents, those of us who are parents, like there's always that thing of like, is my kid ready for this? Like, I don't know, like, and look, it's different depending on the kid. It really is depending on the kid. Some kids are ready for certain things and some are not. Some are voracious readers and they've read things that could be. I remember being really disturbed reading, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory when I was a kid. There's like some dark stuff in there.
Well, it could read like a horror story if you really think about it.
Yeah, no, I read it in third grade and parts of it bothered me, and then I read the sequel and there's even more disturbing stuff in the sequel. But, as a kid, whatever, but I think that parents are tired of having these conversations, and rather than have the conversation, it's just easier to not see it. Right. There's plenty of other classic films that they could watch that the parents watched when they were kids that they know is appropriate, and what's great about that, one of the best things about being a parent to young kids is being able to re-experience a film you saw as a kid through the eyes of your children, right? Like it's almost like you're seeing it again for the first time. So that's great, but they're not, modern Disney is not creating classics that will last into decades. There's not going to be a Strange World 2. There's not going to be a Strange World Land, at the theme parks or much merch. It's just going to die and into obscurity. But
it's going to be sitting right next to Cinderella 2 and Bambi Part 3.
Yeah, exactly.
And they all exist, by the way.
Yes, no, I know. I remember it came out in clamshell on VHS in the 90s, and I did purchase them. So, what can I say?
Aladdin 2 was pretty decent, actually.
Yeah, so some of those were okay, but no, my argument is let the marketplace decide. The marketplace decides what they're looking for, and this is a movie that at best is going to make 25-30 million after it's out of theaters, right? It's going to do that. Maybe they'll inch 35 to 40. Okay, but you don't spend $180 million on a movie that's only going to gross a max of 40. So you scale the content to the market. That just, to me, it's really obvious. Like, I know I'm a guy that has done an indie movie website, Film Threat, for a long time, a couple decades on the website, and the magazine I did, we were in print for 13 years. So I know about that. The indie film market is smaller. Now we're a big player in that market, covering independent film, but that's, compared to other stuff, there are much bigger sites than Film Threat that cover more mainstream stuff. And, that's just the way it is. I just sort of accept that fact. So I'm just surprised that people at Disney don't recognize this, and they've been influenced by activists within the organization to take on these cause-related films to their own detriment. So,
or rather, to shareholder detriment, because people,
I guess there's
take them on. They get paid anyway, right up until they get fired.
Right.
And I guess there's a town hall going on right now with Mr. Iger, which is
right.
funny because everything we're hearing out of it so far. Why the fuck did they fire Chapek?
Let me guess. Is he doubling down on what Chapek was
Everything Chapek was going to do. There's still going to be a hiring freeze. There's still going to be cutting. They're still supposed to be taking things away from politics.
See, this is exactly what I'm not afraid of, because it's good for Disney, but this is exactly what I expected of that slimy cunt, Bob Iger, that he would do just this. I mean, seriously.
Is this why they were pushing the Chapek's woke bullshit?
Obviously. To try to pretend that all of the woke projects that came out under Chapek, which were really Iger's projects, all the wokeness, all the problems, every last one of them that came out under Chapek was Bob Iger's doing. It's just a matter of timing. And then here's the funny thing. The projects that Chapek greenlit, they actually can be good. Like, for instance, Deadpool 3 with Hugh Jackman. That's Chapek.
He's only been in charge for 11 months.
That's all Chapek.
Yeah.
None of the stuff he's greenlit is going to be coming out for another year and a bit.
Yeah, like 2 more years until all of the things are coming out right now, so that Iger can't take credit for them. And yeah, like Chapek, he had an open riot against him. It was like an organized riot. You had a resistance movement within the company. For
I'd almost compare it to how Trump was treated, to be honest with you.
Well, let's not take it that far, but because
there
there was actually the same policy.
Actually, I said it's kind of very similar. The way he got protested and there, like if you think about it, it's kind of in line. But anyhow, sorry, you're right. Like this is frustrating to say the least.
Yeah,
because
it is. And it just goes to show the complete lacking moral character and integrity of Bob Iger. Because if he had any, he would take the company in a different direction. But if he just continues what Chapek was doing, then why the hell fire Chapek in the first place? He was obviously on the right path.
Plus, you got to pay out his contract now too.
Well, good for him. He deserves it.
Well, no, I know, but like I'm looking at if I was somebody on the board, I'd be like, this makes no fiscal sense. You're spending all this money to get rid of this person, only to have somebody come in and do exactly what the other person was going to do. What, just because this person can do it without resistance now? Is that it? And he's restructuring the company, so I'm sure he's going to undo some of the shit Chapek did. Because make no mistake about it. The one thing that Chapek did that really pissed everybody off, I don't think that they were so upset about the political moves and all that kind of shit. I think they were just looking for anything they could to lynch this guy with because of him making it to where the creatives had to answer to him. That is what pissed them off. That is what pissed everybody off in Hollywood because they didn't like that idea. They didn't like the idea of these fuckers having to actually answer for why this shit don't make money.
You know what? Just wait to see Bob Iger actually keep Chapek's new infrastructure in place, giving all that power to himself and his lieutenants.
I wouldn't be surprised, but at the same time, I think that's the one thing he's going to undo.
Yeah, that was my first thought.
Has that lawyer that was brought in for the employee terminations, has he left the building or is he still there working out other contract terminations?
I don't know, to be honest with you. Culture would be the one who'd know besides Valiant, probably.
I have to say that it wouldn't surprise me if he was still there. I've heard nothing, but it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, Bachner's out after Kareem Daniels out. You've got more people probably on the horizon that'll be let go. And again, the town hall is not there to tell the C-suite or any executive what to expect. It's to lay the groundwork for disappointing all these employees that are heavily invested in the company. So we'll see.
Although I have to say I really like the name Biger. It sounds like it sounds like
Yeah,
Viger.
I was gonna say it sounds like a villain.
Yeah.
Wasn't
Biger is coming.
Wasn't that like the district attorney in the Rittenhouse trial, or was that Binger or something?
No,
I think that was Binger.
Yeah, okay, it was something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's just like so frustrating because I want Disney to go back to actually caring about its audience and its legacy. But what is so frustrating to me, at least, like why I react the way I did, is because here you have Bob Iger, and I will admit that the first half of his reign was a good one, but the second half was every single bit as bad as Michael Eisner's. Bob Iger stayed too long. He needed to be kicked out of the company 5 years earlier. Then Disney would have been in a better position because he, to paraphrase The Dark Knight, lived long enough to see himself become the villain, to see the unraveling of everything that he had built, and he took the company woke. And then Chapek was brought in from nowhere, and of course he probably sucked badly at the Parks division. I don't know anything about that. But from everything we can see, he actually did some really, really good work on the entertainment side, taking things out of politics, meeting massive resistance along the way, restructuring the company specifically to that end, only for Iger, the man who destroyed everything, to come back in the last inning, continue his work, and then take credit for it. It's just like that stolen valor just pisses me off.
Well, it's interesting. I was listening to a podcast called The Masters of Scale, which is a very nerdy tech podcast, but they had clips from an interview with Bob Iger, and he was talking about, you know, the things he's most proud of as an accomplishments at Disney. This interview was conducted after his exit, before recent events. And I mean, the main thing that he did was, you know, IP acquisition. He said that was what he was focused on, was IP acquisition. It was, you know, getting Marvel, getting Pixar, getting Star Wars. And additionally, he's the one who brokered the deal with the Chinese to make a Shanghai Disneyland, right? Like that. And he'd been working on that since the late 90s. That's how long that deal was in the making. And one of the things that was interesting is he talked about how it's like, yes, it's Disney, but it's also, you know, it also realizes most of the customers are going to be Chinese, right? And they have to, so they change it a little bit for that Chinese market. That's how he kind of opened up the market in China. You know, it helped him a lot having the Shanghai Disneyland. So they serve not just cheeseburgers and hot dogs, but they also have squid, right? And they have things that are more, you know, Chinese culture, sort of paying tribute to the local culture. It's so, and then he talked about how each of these IP he acquires, they kind of have their own, you know, their own brand and own identity. So you should listen to that Masters of Scale podcast interview with Bob Iger. It's just clips, but I found it fascinating. Sort of what is important to him. So does that, you know, reading the tea leaves, does that give us any insight into going forward, what's going to happen? I don't know. I think that when he's had opportunity to let people go, he doesn't do it. And I feel like, you know, a message can be sent by someone's firing. If you fail, and the people involved in Strange World clearly failed, well, some of those people you pay with your job. You know, you remain employed because you contribute something to the company. And the failure for those in leadership positions to lead, which is, you know, you got to be accountable. And then the people who are accountable, some of those underlings, they got to go. They have to go. Like it's bizarre that there aren't more firings, right? Or more people. It depends on what position, right? Like a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people in the entertainment industry are freelance, right? It's a freelance business. So, you know, you're working on Marvel or Star Wars, you're doing special effects, you're working hard for 6 months, and maybe you take a couple months off to get a therapist. But you know, it's just bizarre to me how the failing upwards just seems to be something that is widely accepted in Hollywood, and that kind of thinking has gotten us to where we are. So those are my thoughts on that.
Wow. Well, let's get to some super chats here. Let's see what you guys are saying out there in the chat. We got House of Trades who sent one in this morning who says, "Hail Midnight's Edge, can we talk about how good the Netflix series Wednesday is? I'm already on my second binge watch. Jenna Ortega nailed the role of Wednesday." Well, I haven't seen this yet. Has anybody here on the panel seen it?
I have.
What'd you think?
It was all right.
Say, I've heard mixed reviews, but you saying it's all right is actually a sign of goodness.
That's a ringing
it's very
endorsement.
Smallville-y. It's, if you're a fan of Smallville, you'll probably like this. It's very Smallville-y.
Isn't it from the same guys who made Smallville?
It is, yeah. Alfred Goff and Miles Miller. They wrote most of the episodes. Tim Burton directs a bunch of episodes himself. The artwork is very Tim Burton-y and V. Neil-ish. So, like, visuals are quite good. Fred Armisen plays Fester, and I don't think he does a good job. He's probably the worst.
Yeah, he was the one aside that I really wasn't too sure on. Yeah.
Lurch is too short.
He's
not very tall or Lurch-like. And it the concept doesn't make sense because they go to this place called Nevermore, very Edgar Allan Poe-y, and everyone is some sort of like Gorgon, werewolf, vampire, like supernatural creature, and then you have to ask yourself, well, why is Gomez an alumni from this school? Because Gomez is none of those things, nor does he have any supernatural powers. And then the other part, which I also think is antithetical to the Addams family, is that the Addams family are well aware that they would be considered outcasts to the regular world, and that ruins the joke of the Addams family, in my opinion. So those are my thoughts on the show.
Yeah, that doesn't really sell it for me, but again, I've heard mixed reactions. Unless anybody else here on the panel has seen it,
I haven't seen
not much I can say.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it either, but yeah, no, it absolutely sounds like it's going to be mixed for most people. But hey, if you liked it, brilliant. That's the only review that should matter.
Yep.
There you go. Might check it out, but I'm not rushing to check it out. Dr. Long Dongler sends us in a Supa Sticka. See what it is. He had a thumbs up. If you have not hit that thumbs up, please do. There's over 2,500 of you watching right now. Let's see, boy. Oh, not even half of you have hit the like button. Come on, kids, please hit that like
smash
button.
that like. Smash that like for Biker.
For Biger, yeah, do it for Biger if you're gonna do it. Do it for the Biger. Gunstar1 is here and says, my question is for the great Chris Gore. Is there any truth to the rumor that Dune Part 2 is going to focus on Shawnee? It's got me worried.
It's not a rumor. There was an interview with Denis Villeneuve, and he said that Part 2 would focus on Shawnee. That's not entirely inaccurate when it comes to the books. Like
Right.
there's a whole thing at the end about Shawnee's contribution and whatnot. So I don't think it will. I think it's more of an ensemble film, right? I mean, Paul Atreides is the lead, he is the hero, but he
marries Shawnee. Well, he's in a committed relationship with Shawnee. Shawnee's the love interest to Paul. They're partners.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's Princess Erlin, right?
But that's like a marriage, and that's a political marriage. It's not.
But I think what Chris is saying here, and I think what you're getting at, is that he's just saying this because it's true. Story-wise, now she does become a bigger part of the story. In the previous part that we did see, she hadn't really come into the story yet. From here on out, she plays a much larger role. I think that's what he's getting at.
Yeah, she was barely in the film in the first one, which was fine. Sort of just that it's fairly accurate to the book, right? Which I read several times, 4 or 5 times. So yeah, but I will say when I see a lot of actors or talent in interviews, they're placating the media. They're telling the media things they want to hear. How many times have we heard this is gonna go full woke and it's gonna be this and it's gonna be super gay, and then there's just some pandering scene with what's his name, Kurg, at the end of Thor, and he's got a gay lover, so I think a lot of that is just Denis Villeneuve kind of placating the press. But I hopefully a lot of that stuff is going away, because there was a recent New York Times article talking about how the Me Too movement is kind of overreached and is costing Hollywood plenty. And I think also with the failure of Strange World, like the failure of a movie like Bros, and the future failure of a movie called Spoiler Alert, which if you see the trailer, it basically is the entire movie.
Wow.
Okay, do share.
Spoiler alert, have you seen it's a gay romantic. I wouldn't know that it's a romantic comedy necessarily, but it's Jim Parsons from
The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, I was going to say that horrible show that I never watched. He's in a gay committed relationship. They celebrate Christmas together. He's like collects all sorts of nerdy stuff, and he gets cancer. And so it's the whole movie is like.
So it sounds like Gay Sheldon gets cancer.
Yeah. So it's like
meets 50-50 with the
yeah. Like, what was that? I don't know.
There was also the Funny People one with Adam Sandler. Is that the one you're thinking of, where he thought he was going to die?
Yeah, something like that. We're just like, okay, so it's a gay committed relationship, and one of them gets cancer, and so there you go. So that's that movie's probably going to tank. Although I think that might do actually better than Bros, because that's more of a human relatable story, right?
It is, but I mean, it's also blatantly amateur because cancer is the easy conflict, right? Yeah, everybody.
Right.
I mean, I can't tell you how many screenplays I've read from writers starting out, be like, "Oh, it's about cancer." It's like, oh God, give me like Lyme disease or Lou Gehrig's disease, some other ailment other than cancer. Cancer is
well, at least even in funny people, I don't even think they really even say. They may have said what it was, but it was something so like I had no idea what the hell off the cuff it was that Adam Sandler
synaptic misfire or something. You know?
Yeah, it was. At least it was something that wasn't, you know, like you just
In
said.
the script, though, in their defense, cancer is something that
It's easy to relate to. Exactly.
Go through. So it's very easy to relate to.
Yeah, it's very.
Yeah.
Yes,
A number of members of my family pass away from that disease, various types, but it's always the abstract. They don't say, "Oh, it's a kidney or liver." Brain,
no, like in Thor: Love and Thunder, they just say she's got cancer. They don't say what kind of cancer. They just say cancer.
Script, can you confirm something for me? I am told that in screenplays you cannot use a real name of a real drug that exists in the world.
I have been told that if it's still under like a patent for a pharmaceutical company, you can't do that. But if you were to use something that's kind of more like a public thing, like very cheap, not a huge profit margin for
I was gonna say, I think it'd have more to do with advertising. Like if you're saying something generic like aspirin, you're probably fine.
Yeah, like you can do aspirin. You can't. Yeah, you have to get permission to use stuff like Tylenol or Advil.
That's what I was thinking, like the actual trademark names.
Like, like brand name things are touchy. But if you were to, like, you could use ivermectin in a movie script if you wanted to, because it's cheap. It's everybody can get it. It's the kind of like the root cause of the root drug itself. It's what it is. But yeah, if you want to use something that has it in there and it's got like a name brand recognition, you'd have to get licensing rights from the pharmaceutical company or whatever drug company owns that particular patent. It's a whole. I mean, you're always advised don't say specific drugs just because it's a litigation nightmare on rights and permissions and everything of that nature.
Right, and I think that's why they just generically say you got an aspirin, kind of like how John McClane was asking constantly.
Yeah, and like if you're doing something with drugs and stuff, you can say, "Oh, do you have the like you need to take a measles shot?" Like that's what they'll say that way. They'll do.
Yeah, I think it has more to do with I mean, yeah, and I doubt that. I think that's one place Hollywood has never really taken any money from has been the pharmaceutical industry.
Wow.
At least in a sense of like advertising it in a movie, right? I mean, I'm sure they have under the table. Don't get me wrong, especially with this the COVID thing, especially. Talk shows, television's a different story probably, but movies themselves, I'm trying to think of the last time an actual drug.
I'm sure it will have been some, even if we can't think of it, with
maybe like a Flonase or something like that.
Something
the only time I can think of is Wayne's World when they brought in Nuprin, but that was just for a fucking joke, a flat out joke.
Yeah.
And as I point out, that's the only one of those jokes that dates itself, which is funny. So, but anyway, because nobody knows what Nuprin is anymore. But no, I get what you're saying. Like as far as under the table, oh hell yeah! But I can't think of any time where, like, even just like a minor thing that they put in there is like a kind of a plug. But that could very well be. But anyway, moving on. That was way beyond the main point. Andre, as far as Dune 2, I wanted you to chime in on this real quick. What do you think Denny was saying? Do you think that's kind of it, basically, that Shawnee is going to be a bigger part of the story and he's playing the media to the media's sensibilities?
I think yes and no, because you can tell from the first movie that they had made a creative choice to leave her out of it. She only appears towards the very end there. We only see like visual references to her earlier, and then she appears. That suggests to me that she's going to have a much, much bigger role in the second movie for two reasons. One is because the story calls for it. So there's that. The story calls for it, and she's supposed to have a bigger role, and so is the mother and everything. So that's all good and well. There's also another matter, and that is how much extra will the role have been beefed up for current year political sensibilities. That I cannot say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he will too much, though. That was my point, because he kind of pulled
I don't
that
think he
already
will too much.
with the whole idea of the recasting, you know, the race swap. But you were saying something, Chris. I'm so sorry.
No. Real quick. It just it's an ensemble movie. How do you make Chani the focus of it? There's so many other characters. Baron Harkonnen. We have Fade Routha coming in. I mean, she may have a larger role in the second half, which would be accurate to the book, but this is an ensemble film. I don't see how you do Dune focus on any one character. There's way too much. Then you have the Emperor of the Known Universe coming out there, the Padishah Emperor played by Christopher Walken. Like, Princess Irulan is coming in, played by Florence Pugh. There's so many. It's an ensemble thing. Will she have a bigger role? Yes. Is she the focus? I don't see how you accurately tell the story with her being the focus of it. I mean, I do know it's kind of the anti-hero journey in the sense that, the whole point of it is just not to trust people in power. Like that's it. So it's kind of like, it's not a white savior story. It's more of a, don't trust these people. In fact, Frank Herbert, if you've read in interviews, he talks about how he based Paul Atreides on JFK, because Frank Herbert never trusted JFK because JFK is, handsome, charismatic leader, got us involved in Vietnam. We got America involved in Vietnam, and we became a warlike nation, right? We're constant war. And he hated that. He hated that. And so he was not a fan of JFK, but he loved Nixon because he goes, well, Nixon, you can kind of see who Nixon is, right? Like Nixon, like on the surface, the guy is, you see it. He doesn't try to pretend to be something he's not necessarily. So it's interesting when you listen or watch interviews with Frank Herbert, kind of what was influencing him at the time. I mean, remember, Dune was published in 1965 in its first run. I believe it was parts of Dune were published in some science fiction, so those pulp.
Yeah, Frank actually had a hard time
correct.
getting it published, so it actually got published through a company that did what was it, auto manuals or some shit on it.
Yes, it was published in 5 parts originally, and then it was rewritten and expanded for the book publishing. And actually, it was published in a pulp magazine, but then for the book release, it was published by a company that does auto manuals and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, in any case, I mean, it's so forward thinking and so like counter to so much other science fiction that was happening at the time. There's no robots, there's no like aliens, even. Like it's very, very different. And it even gone beyond where it's only briefly mentioned, but there's a war against technology. That's why you have a mentat, right? Like that's why you have human computers as opposed to actual, there's technology, but not any AI, artificial intelligence, because there were wars because of that. So it's like Frank Herbert was not, everyone else is writing all these things, robots and all sorts of things that are typical in science fiction. And he's like, well, I'm thinking like, what happens to the world centuries beyond that, thousands of years beyond those things, right? So really just brilliant. Do yourself a favor and read that book or get the audio book. The latest version of the audio book is great. It's enhanced with music, and then they have different actors playing certain roles in it. So it's very good. But yeah, I don't see how you make Chani the focus of it. I also think Zendaya, with all due respect, I don't think she can carry a movie where it's all about her. She was fine in the Spider-Man films. She was okay, but I just don't think she has the gravitas to pull it off.
Or the weight. She's only 90 pounds. You can't carry much when you're that.
Yeah, I just don't see how they make her the focus. She's more important in the second half of the book.
I was just gonna say, I still think that's what he meant, to be honest with you. Yeah.
I think that she'll just have more screen time. I mean,
yeah, I think that's what it was. I think the question was more or less based on the idea that she's barely in the first movie.
Right.
She's considered one of the main stars, but like she's literally ethereal in the film throughout. Like what, maybe 3 to 5 minutes total screen time? Not even that. Like there's the one battle scene, then there's just the dream sequences. Because once the next part of the film kicks in, she is going to be in quite a bit of it. In fact, like, because her and Paul obviously have a lot in that to go back and forth with. Anything that's not taking place with Paul, other than that, is like the only time she's not going to probably be on screen, right? So like, because her and Paul are almost inseparable between now and the end of the book. So
yeah,
I'm trying to think if there's any real major scenes without her in it, but no, I think she even goes to war with him, doesn't she? Andre, help me out here. I think thought she went to battle.
The later books that I'm like weak on right now.
No, I was talking about in the first main book. I'm talking about because what happens next, where the movie left off, is they become part of the tribe, right?
Yeah.
He's got to learn all the.
Oh yeah.
He's got to learn all that stuff. Her and him. The only other times I can think of, and I think she's still present during most of that shit, at least in the movie.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah. So like, they're practically inseparable from here on out. So like,
they are exactly. She's like his she's not his wife, but she's his concubine, which is for all intents and purposes the wife. She's going to be the mother of his children, and she's also his lieutenant on the battlefield. So that is why she has a big role.
And that's what I thought. They fought right alongside each other.
Yeah, she's involved in the battles for sure. But I don't want to. Also they may cut some of the stuff from the book. I mean,
well, sure, but
there's so much that happens in that. Like, I think they could make 2 movies, frankly, and make the first.
Frankly,
they could make the first book a trilogy. I mean, ultimately, it just should have been.
I'm surprised they didn't, Chris. To be honest,
honestly, I am too.
Yeah, 2 movies.
Whereas as it is right now, the 3rd movie is going to be book number 2. Because that way you tell
if we get a 3rd movie.
If we get a 3rd movie. But if we do, then they will tell the entire Paul Atreides saga over the course of 3 movies. I can kind of like see why they would do it that way.
But that could even be his Denis Villeneuve's plan, in the sense that, Peter Jackson, when he pitched Lord of the Rings, it was like 1 movie, then we'll do 2 movies, and it's like, why not a trilogy? There's 3 books. And
that was Bob Shea, but yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. I'm glad you thought of it, Bob Shea.
Did I ever tell you about that?
Yeah, but also like
kind of a fuck you to the Weinsteins.
Yeah, Quentin Tarantino kind of did the same thing with Kill Bill. He was just like, God, this is really long, a 3-hour, 4-hour movie, and it's like, and Harvey Weinstein, was basically. Quentin Tarantino planted the idea in Weinstein's head.
I think, to be honest with you, I think Tarantino always meant for it to be 2 movies. Because if you look at it, those are clearly 2 different movies. Like, I mean, yes, they're meant to be part of the same thing, but
now it's possible that Denis Villeneuve could just say, I don't care. I'm just making a 4-hour movie. You decide what to cut. And then maybe Warner's looks at it and says, all right, can we just make this 2 movies? I mean, 2 movies, more profit, right? So I don't know. That could be his evil plan. I actually hope it is, because so many. I mean, really, the story has just begun, right? Like they're on Arrakis and his family is wiped out. Okay, a lot happens in the second half of the book, and even the book glosses over so much. They'll be like, because what's interesting about Frank Herbert's style is battles happen, but you really just hear about them and what the result is. He doesn't describe the battles. It's very, very vague the way the action is portrayed in the Dune book. Things happen, but and you learn the results or the beginnings of those things, but he doesn't do like a lot of blow by blow of action, except with the worms. He seems to be obsessed with the worms. But I would love to see Dune Part 2 turn into Dune Part 2 and 3. It would make a lot of sense. I mean, look, it's not unprecedented. They did it with the Hunger Games. They did it with Harry Potter, and they could do that. And maybe that's what Disney is.
Well, Dune 2 has to be a bigger hit. That's the thing. Is I was always kind of sure we would get the first 2. The 3rd one was the one that I was always not so sure about.
And you've got characters coming back and some characters not coming back. I mean, it's just like, if they really go into detail on a lot of this stuff, there's so many characters to juggle in this. There's no way that Chani is the lead of this movie. This just doesn't make sense.
No, and I don't think that's what he meant either. I think it was just on the idea of they were asking because she was such a prominent name in the credits, but not in the film so much. Mihan has become a member. Thank you so much, Mihan. We appreciate that. Yankee Doodle Dandy has a question for Chris. Chris Gore, isn't a film supposed to be about the journey, not the destination? Example, I've read people say bad ending ruins a film for them.
That's true. It is. I mean, and also in most films, you can actually just sort of predict the ending. You know, you can always like, well, the hero's going to win or this is going to happen, which is always shocking when that doesn't happen. It happens more often in small indie movies. But yeah, it is about that journey, and it's about, you know, overcoming. That's why they've got the, you know, the Joseph Campbell hero's journey. Just Google that, look that up. I mean, you'll read a lot. But yeah, bad ending. I don't know. I feel like a lot of the quote modern entertainment is really trying to flip that script, and it's not resonating with people. I mean, earlier we were talking about Strange World. It just, that movie is not going to resonate with audiences. It's just
yeah.
not.
And then also you have the franchise problem where they're always trying to pull Empire Strikes Back at the end of these things. And it just gets kind of tedious. Like, to me, not every movie has to have some grand ending. Sometimes the worst endings are when they try to do something way out there. But then there's some movies that don't really have like a climactic ending, but the film themselves, like you just said, are the journey. Reservoir Dogs comes to mind. What's the end of the movie? Everybody fucking dies. That's the end of the movie. Like,
but they're the bad guys.
We're talking about that movie, you know, 3 decades later. We're talking about Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, because that journey, because we all know through the whole movie what the whole point is that one of these guys is a cop. They don't know. We know. Right? Like, that's the whole point of the film, and how it ends isn't important. It's that journey through the film. But sometimes the ending makes the movie. Like, I would argue The Sixth Sense does not work without its ending. And at the same time, I wonder if a lot of people would, is it really a rewatchable movie after once or twice of seeing it? I've not returned to Sixth Sense since it came out. I've seen it a couple times when it first came out, and that was it.
I would also say
Reservoir Dogs, the ending isn't the ending. It's, you're watching the journey. Like, Harvey Keitel's character changes drastically from when you first meet him to the end. That's his ending. Like, the abstract.
It's his redemption story, big time. Yeah,
but it's actually his ending. And the other part too, and to piggyback up what Chris is saying, is that a bad ending is someone that feels unearned, and the journey has to preclude to an ending that satisfies the journey. And if those two don't connect properly, yes, you'll feel like it's a bad ending, that it doesn't feel authentic to what you saw. And that's usually, you see that a lot in the indie films, where it's always like, oh yeah, the bad guys win, but they try to liken it to like Empire Strikes Back. But you have to realize the Empire Strikes Back isn't as dark as an ending as you think it is. It's basically the heroes get away, but it comes at great cost. But they survive to fight another day. Like, that's still a good ending. That's a positive thing to say. It's like, yep, Luke's still alive. Leia's there. Right. They're back with the rebellion. They're ready to fight again, and they're actually planning to go rescue Han. So it's like, yeah, they're not giving up in the face of this defeat. That's a good ending. That's why people liked it. I was like,
talking more about the reveal and the kind of like the Planet of the Apes ending kind of thing. Yeah.
But if it was more like an ending where Luke decided to hide in his room, and then Leia is like, I'm leaving the rebellion, and they just gave up, that would be a bad ending, because they then went through all of that just to give up. And that's not rewarding. That's not making the journey that they saw. What's the old saying that was in that they used in The Girl Next Door, is the juice worth the squeeze? Like, that's what you're not doing if you go in the Rian Johnson direction, so to speak. It's like, it's not about giving up, it's about persevering in failure. That's what makes it a good ending, and not I know a lot of writers that don't get that. I know a lot of directors that don't get that. And that's why they have those endings where the bad guy wins and it's a maniacal laugh or what have you in their films. And I'm being, of course, a little hyperbolic there, but yeah.
The Last Jedi is a good example of how the ending could have possibly saved that movie, right? Because let's be real. You can have Luke be the unforgiven Luke, but you have to give him that ending where he goes and saves his fucking sister.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's what you have to do. You can do all those things up to that point, but you can't have him literally phone it in at the end, because then it don't work. It's not the same thing.
And then you have people mentioning Chinatown in the chat. Chinatown has a great reveal and a great ending, but the ending is not the situation that's failed. It's the fact that Jack Nicholson's character has now become a better man from this journey.
Well, not only that, he knows the deeper,
he knows how
everything.
deep this thing goes. Yes.
Yeah. No, that's another great ending, like Reservoir Dogs. Chinatown is about the journey getting there. Yeah.
Chinatown's great. Please go watch that instead of Strange World.
Please do. Yes, absolutely. I can't disagree with that at all. Disney hit with more bombs than Dresden in World War II, says Mr. Tickletron. Well, we'll see here how this rest of this year goes from. It does not sound good. Avatar's not looking the best either, because this is what I was alluding to earlier. Now is probably a good time to bring it up. Turns out Disney is demanding 65% of the whole first month of release of Avatar.
Yikes.
Good luck.
A lot of smaller theaters are telling them to go below themselves because there's no way they're doing that. Because also, I guess my understanding is they have to hang on to it for at least a couple months. Ugh. I don't know the exact number either. Yeah. So if you got like a small theater where you're only a single or double screen, they're like, fuck that noise.
You know, this reminds me of Star Wars prequels where George was asking for and getting the moon. This doesn't have that kind of weight. And I think that even the major chains might say, you know what, Regal can run this. I'm not interested. That'd be a blow.
I mean, this is going to be I'm trying to think. I don't know if there's any big movies coming out for like IMAX, but like I could see IMAX having an issue with this too, if there was other movies coming out.
Well, there is though, isn't there? There's not January.
Scream is like the next big movie after Avatar. I could be wrong, but somebody look up, and find out. But yeah, I think that's the next big major release after Avatar, but I could be wrong. But while he's looking that up, that seems to be the situation. It's like, fuck that. And speaking of, this is almost perfect timing. John Evan Bear said, if Avatar 2 needs to make $2 billion just to break even, and if it manages to break even, then that means that Top Gun Maverick is more profitable than Avatar 2, even if Way of the Water makes more money. Yes, because the budget was less. And here we have actually finally got a rough number. Deadline, I think it was either Deadline or Hollywood Reporter, had reported the budget at somewhere between $400 and $500 million. So I was right, culture. We had a little spat about that.
We did?
Yeah, because you didn't believe that they would spend that much money on a movie. I said, I fucking did.
The minute you spend $700 million.
Once you that's not including advertising, I bet. So once you add in advertising, that's the $700 million right there. There's your $2 billion. There's no, who's writing that check? Well, Fox Cameron said it himself. If he can get them to spend the most money in the world on a movie, he will.
Yeah, there you go, and he did. So good on Hancock, not or is it good on Cameron? We're doing something in the background here.
Yeah, I was gonna say your mind's in a different place.
But good on him, and not so good on those that have to pay for the bill there, because that's going to be a lot to pay for.
Let me put it to you this way: if this movie does not manage to make at least $1 billion, and that's not even anywhere near the break-even territory. But even at that point, it has to do that much just not to be as big of a disaster as fucking Strange World, basically, in comparison.
Yeah, it's on IMDb at a 1.8 out of 10. Audience. I don't know what the Rotten Tomatoes score is, but
for Strange World,
yeah, one.
Wow. Surprised.
Yeah.
Well, then you can tell that Rotten Tomatoes is definitely being fortified, because theirs is at like I think it's 70 something.
That's not.
There's no way that's accurate. Yeah.
I mean, we already know they do that, but well, Tom, I mean, you're going to be able to see Magic Mike's Last Dance on February 10th, because I know you were looking forward to that.
Oh my God. The movies don't even know what audiences want to see. The people.
Can you make a Magic Mike movie now?
But here's the thing. The movie theater, if you look on it as like, look at the movie theaters and everything playing there like a streaming channel. Would you subscribe to that channel? It's really getting just bad. I mean, look, I was like, look, I want to go. I want to go to the movies. I go every week, no matter what's playing, good or bad. I'll go every week and see something, usually whatever the biggest movie is. But it is just slim pickings over the holidays when one of the things you love to do over the holidays is go with your family to a movie. This is why I think that Avatar could end up doing well. It's not because everyone wants to see it. It's because the one movie that the entire family could agree that they all want to see. So everything from like kids to, adults are going to say, well, let's just go to that. But the 3
because
hours,
there's nothing else. So like no one wants to go, but due to lack of options.
Yeah, but bring a sleeping bag. It's 3 hours and 10 minutes with 20 minutes of trailers at an AMC theater. That's 3.5 hours. Who has 3.5 hours? Jesus, James Cameron, you might have been a little overreaching on this. I mean, the original is long, but 3 hours and 10 minutes for a movie that kind of just looks like a retread.
I'll give you one little thing here, Chris, because I know you've been pretty adamant that the film might do pretty well over Christmas, which you're probably right. It might with the family side of things. But I think they're opening that Violent Night movie up against it. What if that fucker pulls like
I can't wait.
Terrifier 2 on Avatar?
Oh wow.
Well, it's
it's
like
more the Jumanji on the Star Wars.
Right.
Not to that extent, obviously, because there's no way in the world it would. But let's just say for a moment that, let's just say we get these headlines that, what is it? Violent Night is it called? Yeah.
Violent Night. I'm seeing it tonight.
Violent Night makes more per screen than Avatar 2 or some shit like that.
Well, hey, look, the next big tent pole-y kind of thing to come out that isn't obviously Magic Mike, because I know Tom wants to see that, Magic Mike. February 17th is Ant-Man Wasp, Quantumania.
Right.
So it does have a couple months to run. I just don't know. I don't know how far it's going to run. I mean, the first Avatar film ran for like a year. I mean, it was in the theater forever.
Yeah.
I $2 billion. My God.
Same with Titanic. Titanic ran forever too.
I don't see a lot of room there. I really don't, but we'll see. I mean, there really aren't a lot of in theater releases this year. It's less than there was, or for 2023, it's less than 2022. That's not good. we're headed into slim pickings for a while.
Yeah. And you would think that this would be a great opportunity for a company like Disney to actually make a fortune on the movies that they put out. Unfortunately, every single movie they're releasing is a bunch of dog poop.
That Megan movie comes out the first week in January too. Don't underestimate that little fucker, because it's been...
Yeah, no, that kind of good.
That movie has been getting a lot of social media buzz.
Yeah.
So that could be a surprise hit too.
Well, and that they have a one-day release for Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey coming out.
Oh, is that coming out? Oh, that's right. I heard about that.
It's a Fathom event. It gets a one day on
that
March.
Grinch horror movie is supposed to be coming out too. Did you guys see that? I haven't. Did you see they're doing a Grinch horror movie? It's like a parody.
Yeah, it's the same dude who plays the Terrifier, who plays like Al Clown or whatever. He's playing the Grinch.
Don't be surprised. There's some things coming. What's this Teen Wolf the movie thing? They're doing a Teen Wolf. Oh, that's for Paramount Plus. Never mind. That's off the TV show, evidently. Ant-Man, and when is Shazam 2 supposed to be out though?
That's a couple weeks later. That one is, hang on. I
don't expect that to do huge, but
March 17th.
Okay, so that's in March.
But here's the thing, that only gets 1 week before John Wick 4 comes out, and that thing's gonna crush.
They might move Shazam yet too. I wouldn't be surprised. Time's running out, but they might. Oh, Scream doesn't come out till March. I thought that came out in January. That's my fault. Sorry about that. But yeah, you got John Wick 4 coming out in March. So that's probably the next big movie to make any real money, I bet. Creed 3 is supposed to be out in the beginning of March, but I have some bad feelings about that.
We really aren't going to get into the heavy hitters until summer again this year.
Well, we got Mario Brothers coming out It looks like the beginning of April. Is that Easter weekend?
Yeah, but it's not going to do well.
You don't think Super Mario Brothers is going to do well?
I don't. I think it'll be fine. It's not going to be.
Let's make a bet on that.
On whether or not it's a blockbuster.
I bet you that sumbitch is one of the bigger movies of the year by the time it's said and done.
Okay, but I'm not sure how much that's saying.
We're talking Mario here.
I know.
And this ain't Bob Hoskins Mario. He actually looks like
okay.
Mario.
You remember last time you and I made a wager and you said that Top Gun wasn't going to be that big a film?
Yeah, and I admit you won that one, but I think I'm going to win this one.
All right.
I think Mario Brothers is going to dominate that spring.
I think it'll be okay. So, all right, let's put a number to that. So, Super Mario Brothers over 700 million box office?
I don't know if I go that high, but I think it's Minions level ish. So yeah, probably in that $600 to $700 million.
500 million?
I'd say over 500.
Okay, you tell me what your over under is.
I say over 500.
Okay.
Which to me is a pretty big success for a movie like that. Actually, it might even go higher than that.
Okay, so 600
people
million?
want to poll Andre.
Okay.
Anyway, I didn't mean to carry that over too long, but I just don't. I don't see a lot of very successful films this year.
Oh, Horseradish Power has been a member for a month at the Edgelord level and says Walt Disney Studios, also known as Film Flop Studios, the company where every division is out to outbomb the others. Masterclass incompetence.
It does kind of seem like it, doesn't it? Like they're all playing a game of how can they outvoke one another?
Right?
Can you top this? Except for where the or the box office is concerned.
Yeah. And then Waltman says, Chris, what's your take on Cameron's Disney theory? Have you heard it yet?
Oh, I don't know what Cameron's Disney theory is. What
you
is
want to give him the short version, Andre?
Kamran's Disney theory.
Yeah, Kamram Pasha's Disney theory, because he was here on Friday, and he hadn't heard anything. He was very clear that this was just speculation. But this thing that you see in the trades that was posted in the financial trades, that the CFO was the one who wanted Chapek fired because he had been cooking the books, which is how they framed it as bounding into comics when they picked up the story. This made no sense to him because the CFO, for one thing, would have known this and could have erased this matter in very different ways much, much earlier. That was one thing. The other thing is that the kind of cooking of books that was that they were referring to is something that reportedly is being done all over town in every studio. So it wasn't anything particularly bad or something like that. So he suggested that that's just a cover. Something else is going on. And I saw that this was actually picked up by Bleeding Fool, which is pretty cool. So he suggested that this may have something to do with the FTX collapse, that maybe Disney was heavily invested there because there have been signals that Disney were going to invest into crypto. And what if they did? What if the CFO invested Disney into cryptocurrency? And then the FTX collapse happened. And now it's a matter of survival for the company. Then what do you do? Well, the only way to hide that is to basically be acquired by a bigger company like Apple, and someone who has the connections to facilitate that is Bob Iger. And the rumors of a merger between Disney and Apple came the day after Iger was placed in charge. And it didn't come from some random nobody, but it came from the rep. They obviously have some inclination about it. And even in today's Townhall, Bob Iger didn't deny it. And the only reason why that would happen so quickly, why they would get rid of someone so quickly, get someone in who can facilitate that is if the entire company is on the line because of a sudden catastrophic loss, which has not yet been divulged to the public, and that we may never know because the courts decided that the biggest losers in the whole FTX scheme, they were allowed to remain anonymous, which of course is what you call corruption, but hey, it is what it is. So basically, that was Kamran's theory in a nutshell.
Well, that's interesting theory. Creative accounting is sort of like a Tuesday in Hollywood, so nothing like that would surprise me. But I also feel that we'll never know because, like, we're going to get the list of the clients who went to Epstein Island, or we're not going to get a list of who benefited from FTX, and nobody may end up going to jail, just like 2008. Right? Like all the financial corruption that, led to a downturn in the economy in 2008. I mean, it's like this is all over again, and the people that should be held accountable never are. So I don't know. So I don't really have an opinion on it, but I do trust. In fact, I was watching on Friday, so great show. I'll say Kamran is. I love his theories on it. How are we going to ever find out? Who knows? This stuff is. I mean, you look at the trades in Hollywood are just to stroke people's egos. I don't consider them always accurate.
Well, one way to find out if he's right is if a merger with Apple actually happens in the very near future. That would be the biggest tell.
It would be the biggest tell, but it's also, you look at that's Iger, like that's his thing, is he's a deal maker. I don't, like in his, you should seriously listen to that Masters of Scale interview with Bob Iger. Well, interview excerpts basically where he kind of talks about his career. And he's all about acquiring IP. I don't know about running things, right?
I read his book. I think I got quite sufficient there.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think, I don't know, the Apple thing. If they're gonna get it out, that could be it. Who knows how it's structured? But yeah.
But getting back to this town hall then in Disney, which happened today. The only thing that Iger had to say about the Apple deal is that it was pure speculation. That's how he dismissed it. That's not a denial.
Yes.
To me, that's as close as you're going to get to a confirmation.
Yeah, he might as well have said we've discussed it or there's been conversations, because at that point, you're right. It's a non-denial denial.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's because he knows that if this happens and he ever denied it, he's going to look bad. But if he says, oh, it's pure speculation, then that's a different matter altogether. And someone else who actually may have a take on this, who I am very pleasantly surprised to see joining us, is the one and only Kamram Pasha. Welcome, my friend.
Great to see everyone. Enjoy my new background from my sister's home in Houston. So,
good morning.
That's great. Morning.
Morning. Say, looks like crazy stuff keeps happening at Disney, huh?
It does indeed. So, Kamran, I'm sure that you have been following the news.
Yeah.
And the town hall. We haven't gone through everything that was stated first. Why don't you take us through the gist of what happened at the town hall, and after that, how do you think Iger handled himself, and what does this say about how he's going to run Disney?
Well, even better. Yours. Thank you. Even better than my opinion, I will share the opinion of one of the Disney employees on my Patreon who's been DMing me from this event, right? So giving me their perspective. So I'm just going to read you their DMs. But why don't I do that?
Perfect.
And so we'll jump in here. Okay. So these are DMs coming from one of the Disney insiders that's been feeding me information. And so here, this is him. I'll just quote him. He quotes, Iger is saying Apple takeover is just speculation. And this is what he says. He says, I still believe Iger is trying to sell parts of Disney. And in my opinion, the perfect fit is Disney streaming services, the former BAMTech. You sell it as a tech company that is famous for having issues with its cloud products. They gather strength in streaming and maybe the cloud. Disney gets some cash flow. Everyone is happy. So that's a very interesting, specific thought from this Disney insider. He also quotes Iger as saying things will move fast. And he says that, I wouldn't be surprised if Disney sells its tech assets to Apple. I don't think Apple would be interested in real estate or some of that IP, because we've talked about, that, Disney has so many pieces that, even in a financial crisis situation, they've got a lot. So it's not necessarily you would acquire the company, but you could sell off things. You have things to sell off if you needed money, which I think they do. However, ESPN, Apple is aggressively pursuing sports deals, including an NFL Sunday ticket and or DSS might be attractive. So that's the insider. And we know we have this, I believe his name is Mr. Loeb. There's this activist investor who's been aggressively pushing for Disney to get rid of ESPN. So maybe if that investor is part of all the machinations that are happening, maybe ESPN could be on the block to Apple. And let me say, because I want to address this thing that, he has stated, Bob Iger has said, it's just speculation, right? Well, that's a very carefully worded statement. It's just speculation that we would sell to Apple. It's not we will never sell to Apple. That's how it's being reported in the trades, right? But the phrase is very intentional. I mean, lawyers are all involved in this, right? It's just speculation. Kamram Pasha is speculating on Midnight's Edge they're going to sell to Apple, right? But, that doesn't deny we might be having conversations, right? And again, we've had The Wrap, which was a decent trade and gets inside information, been reporting for a week now that there's at least conversations about a sale. So just speculation means that, we're not going to deny it. We're just going to dismiss it so that you don't all look here. It's just, basic, sleight of hand kind of stuff. Let me look at some more comments here from our Disney Insider. He says, I told you that I was very interested in the fates of Kareem Daniel and Horacio Gutierrez. Kareem Daniel was a Chapek's right-hand man who was let go last week, and Horacio Gutierrez is the chief corporate counsel who remains. So this is what he says. He said, Daniel is out and Gutierrez is still in. That should tell you something. Gutierrez is a bag of tricks. He was the M&A leader at Microsoft. So there's a couple of things here that this person is sharing with us. And I noticed this too, that Gutierrez, who had been assigned by Chapek, in that 25 years ago, 10 days ago memo that came out saying this, we're going to do these layoffs and these things. And Gutierrez, who was in charge of that, he's still there. And so that was the immediate sign to me that Iger's going to just go ahead and implement these layoffs and take credit for them, right? Implement this hiring freeze. And today Iger announces that to, I'm sure, the shock of people. I can already see on the trades, like the comments, people are outraged that Iger is going ahead with this freeze because, that's the reality that Chapek faced. That's what they needed to do economically to save the company at this stage. And of course, there was a lot of talk last week, amongst the fans that Iger is going to, reverse everything Chapek did. He's not in any position to do that, right? That the economics are now ruling everything, and so we're seeing the fact that Horacio Gutierrez, the chief corporate counsel, is still there. It means that he's still in position to implement high-level cuts, which is what was said in that memo. And the other thing that our insider revealed, which Disney doesn't want me talking about this. Okay. All right. That the other thing that I had not known, which is revealed, is that Mr. Gutierrez comes from Microsoft and has a mergers and acquisitions background. So if we're speculating that Apple is at least interested in buying things from Disney to help, to benefit itself and help Disney cover some mysterious holes in its books, then it makes sense to keep Gutierrez there because he's the guy. If he was the guy in charge of M&A for Microsoft, then he's going to be very well positioned to make all kinds of interesting transactions to help Disney at this moment. So that's very revelatory. And now this is the point that our Disney insider said to me that he found most interesting. And he quotes Iger. So he says, he said this to the woke crowd. And he quotes Iger saying, one of the core values of our storytelling is inclusion and acceptance and tolerance. And we can't lose that. We just can't lose that. How we actually change the world through the good must continue. We're not going to make everyone happy all the time, and we're not going to try to. We're certainly not going to lessen our core values in order to make everyone happy all the time. And Now, there's two ways to interpret that. The way that I think some of the wokesters in the audience would like to interpret is like, you're not going to make everyone in the audience happy because you're going to make us happy, and that's okay. Well, the economics don't support that. So the proper interpretation is the one that our Disney insider is saying, which he says this is actually a message to the company and to the wokesters that that we're not going to be able to make you happy. Right. That's what is coming, is we're going to disappoint you, even though we're keeping our core values. We're not going to be able to do everything they want. And, so he said, this is what he says, quote, this is what our insider says. This is going to be so funny. They, meaning the wokesters, they are so happy and not realizing that Iger is here to correct the mistakes of Bob Iger by pulling a Bob Chapek. It's so incredibly funny and ironic. So that's some of the DMs that I've been receiving. Someone at Disney who's giving me sort of live feedback on this town hall. So
if I may just
yes,
one real quickly, because this is something that we talked about earlier, because based on the early reports we were getting, it looks as though Bob Iger is going to continue what Bob Chapek started.
Which is what I said last week.
So why would you replace Chapek in the first place? Because he obviously wasn't doing anything wrong managerially.
So that goes back to the theory that you very graciously allow me to post, which I'm stubbornly holding on to, and I may be going over the cliff for this one, that it's something that is being completely hidden, and I believe that it is FTX related, because that's the only other thing that happened in those 10 days that would have cause some kind of internal crisis. That remains my personal opinion. I've not seen anything to contradict that, nor have I seen anything. I've seen lots of data points that can support it if you look at it from that paradigm, but I haven't seen anything to contradict that that's what's really going on here. Because as you stated, if Chapek has been removed without cause, that's the official thing. If he'd been removed with cause, he wouldn't have gotten his $23 million payout, right? And they would have said this guy mismanaged the company, he created a financial hole, and they would have directly put all the blame on him rather than sort of putting whispers out there in the trades that there's some financial problems, right? And that the CFO was concerned about the earnings call that she herself participated in. So it doesn't make sense for Bob Iger to come back in and just do what Chapek was doing, unless there's a deeper game hidden beneath the eyes of the public right now.
Yeah, those are some very, very interesting observations right there. I'm curious, Mr. Gore, you heard Kamran's take now in a little bit more detail. What do you think this means for Disney going forward, especially in light of Strange World flopping so badly? We just heard they say at the town hall, we are not changing our core values. We're really definitely totally not changing them at all, which to me says they're totally changing them.
I love Kamran's interpretation of the sort of message to the wokesters. I think it's completely 100% dead on. You can't, it has to be supported by data. And the feedback that has been gotten, which is people vote at the box office with their pocketbooks, right? So they voted that this is not a movie that they want to see. There's no defense. There's no one in the company that can point to that and say, this stuff is resonating. It's not. It's turning off audiences. And Disney used to be a brand that was a trusted brand from parents for kids. It is no longer a trusted brand. That is having a corrosive effect on more than likely everything. Everything is down at Disney. And I think, I don't know, when did that, the call that came out that kind of exposed the not so secret gay agenda within Disney?
Reimagine Tomorrow.
Right. That was that about a year ago?
A little more than
it
that.
was in the aftermath of the Don't Say Gay Texas,
right.
Florida scandal. It was the town hall in the aftermath of Bob Chapek having told everyone that we're going away from politics. We're going to go back to politically neutral. So I'm not going to take any stance on the so-called Don't Say Gay bill, even though that was a complete misnomer. And then you had the deep state of Disney, because that was highly organizing their coup against Chapek, or getting all the employees to do walkouts and everything, and then Chapek had to publicly walk that out. That's when we got this hostage video, and then there was an internal town hall. And from this town hall, it then leaked videos. This was never released to the public. We were never supposed to learn about their not-so-secret agenda.
And who leaked them?
Were
Who leaked them, right?
strategic leaks. Yeah, Kamran, you take it from there.
Well,
Now,
who leaked them? I said
who leaked them?
at the time, this is Chapek and his allies leaked them, right? And that's his modus operandi, right? Is he publicly says, I'm going to go along with whatever the wokesters want, and privately undermines them, right? That's been his modus operandi for at least until he was removed. And that was what a lot of people that weren't looking beneath the surface of things, unfortunately, a lot of people here in the fandom and on YouTube were like, well, look, he's bent the knee. I kept hearing that phrase. I was like, it's as much as bending the knee as as Palpatine saying, I love democracy, right?
It's a strategic retreat, I believe, is the term for it.
Yeah, and you tell the audience what they want to hear, and then you go do what you got to do. But the other thing I want to throw in on this that I forgot that I should have said early on from what our Disney Insider says, and this is interesting, I only have him as the source because as far as I can see, it's not been reported in any of the trade reportings of the town hall. So I just got to go with what he said because I wasn't present at the town hall. He claims that Iger said during the town hall that Disney will get out of politics. Now, I don't know if he said it in those words or if that's what my contact interpreted as, but that's very interesting that this Disney Insider got that from Bob Iger, whatever Bob Iger said, that he's going to get the company out of politics, however that was interpreted. So it seems like we're going right back to what the memo was that Chapek put out that started all this drama, but now the friendly guy gets to do it, right? And one of my Patreon members sent me a DM about in Machiavelli's book, The Prince. They talk about a leader, Machiavelli gives an example of a leader in one of the Italian city-states who basically put out, had somebody be the axeman for him, go out and do all the terrible stuff that needed to be done. And then when the people were outraged at this, he then executed the axeman and said, look what terrible stuff he did. And everyone praised him, right? And that's kind of what Iger has done to Chapek, right? Having Chapek do all the stuff that needed to be done and then get rid of him and continue down the path, but with a friendly face. I don't think that's going to work. There's already seeing the comments. If you go to the Deadline article about this town hall, people are outraged and shocked that Iger, they thought that the Messiah had come. The wokesters thought the Messiah had come. They don't understand what's happening here. Well, maybe it's like, and my response to our Disney Insider was, communist foot soldiers are always the first people to be lined up and shot when the party takes control, right? And they're always shocked about that. What do you mean? Why are you doing this to me? And this is what's happening.
Yeah, that's a very apt analogy right there. And I haven't really thought about that Chapek as an axeman, but yeah, it's true, because what Chapek really did, he spent his entire tenure cleaning up Iger's mess, while all of Iger's products were coming out, making it look like they were his products because he was the one in charge at the time. Whereas now is the great opportunity for Iger to come in the aftermath of this movie bombing. He gets to steal the valor and blame Chapek for, well, we have to continue down this path now. Genius. It'll be very interesting to see what is going on with Apple. Was there anything else that stood out to you in this Disney Town Hall?
I mean, I think, again, I wasn't present. I'm only going with what's been reported by my Disney Insider and what's now in the trades. But what stands out to me is how quickly they are essentially, it feels that the party has taken control, which they have. Once they came in, Chapek was executed, and then Kareem Daniel was executed, and both very humiliating fashion for both of those gentlemen, but much more so for Chapek, who has still remained publicly silent, right? And probably because he has a very aggressive NDA put on him because he knows something that they need him to not. What we've seen about Bob Chapek is that he has a tendency to put out memos that are corporate worded but insinuate what's really going on. That's what we've been doing for the last year, is deconstructing his memos and things and say, look, that's what he's really saying, right? And so they were afraid that even if the normal thing when an executive at that level is released, they're at least given a goodbye email. You know, when Peter Rice was fired, he was given a goodbye email after he was frog marched out of Chapek's office after 10 minutes, you're fired speech. He was at least allowed to go to his office, get his stuff, send out a quick 1-paragraph email saying, I wish you all the best. It's been an honor working here. That's the standard Hollywood protocol, right? Chapek wasn't even allowed to do that. He's been absolute silence. I'm sure he would like to say certain things, but they've told him, take your $23 million, shut up. Don't put anything out there that could be interpreted as to what's really going on here. Just keep your mouth shut. And he's accepted it for now. But the very fact that all this behavior, we have a town hall within a week, everything's happening so aggressively. And now this town hall comes in and Iger immediately quashes all the hopes and dreams of the wokesters within 1 week. You know, there's something happening there that is just, none of this is normal. None of this is normal corporate stuff. None of this is normal quarterly earnings stuff. This is something beyond this. This is the behavior of a company in complete panic at a very high level because something has happened that is not within the strategy. Even if Iger's long-term goal was to return, the way this was done was so embarrassing to everyone. I think, you know, I've even seen articles come out there in the financial trade saying the way Chapek was fired was embarrassing, even if it needed to be done, right? It was embarrassing to the company. It makes everybody look bad. It means something is happening that we do not know, that if it gets out, will shock everyone. And again, I'm going to say it's FTX. It may be something else, but it's something of that scale that all of the cameras are off. They have to keep the limelight off of whatever that is, right? Because none of the conversations are like, oh, he was fired because ESG. He was fired because none of that makes sense. He was fired because he was firing people, or Iger's firing people, so that's not true. So why was he fired? The story remains completely obscure because they're not allowing the light onto what the truth is. I think it's inevitable the truth will come out.
Eventually, I'm sure it will. We have a super chat for you, Kamran. Alf wonders, Kamran, does this mean that Bob Iger is going based?
He was never based. Bob Iger is self-interested. This guy's never based. I mean, this guy, as people on Patreon were saying, look, this is his modus operandi in the past, right? It's what he's always done. This guy is a politician. He dreams of being president of the United States. And a politician doesn't, most politicians do not actually have any integrity, right? They're just trying to advance themselves. And so they flip ideology as needed to advance themselves, right? Whatever they think the market will bear. And so the point that people on my Patreon made is like, look, this guy was the politician. He saw that the society he thought was moving in a very progressive social agenda way, in the early 2010s, whatever. So he backed all this stuff. He backed Reimagine Tomorrow. He backed all of this stuff because that was the popular thing to do. And he wanted to be president of the United States. So you got to be popular to do that, right? And then now all the system that he's put in place has collapsed. So he still wants to be popular. So what is he going to do? I'm going to blame the other guy for my stuff, and I'm going to do what needs to be done. And now the popular thing to do, because society is turning in a new direction, I'm going to do that because he still has delusions that he's going to one day be president or something of that nature, right? Or ambassador to China, whatever the hell he thinks he's going to be. But, he's a politician, so he's never been based. And that's the mistake I think a lot of people in analysis are saying. First, people didn't understand Chapek was actually based. I mean, I think even in the early news comments we had in the early part of the year, the trades were talking about Chapek is personally conservative in his political views, right? And they were trying to say, but that's okay. That's okay. At least his minions are trying to say that. Remember, there was a PR guy that was his PR guy for like a few weeks and got fired. That PR guy put it out in the trades. It's okay if Bob Chapek is conservative. He's still, doing the values of it. So they put it out there. The Chapek's politics don't align with a lot of Hollywood, which makes sense because he's a numbers guy. He's not a Hollywood guy.
Well, not only that, he was like in over his head too. That's the thing. He did not know what he was getting into.
You mean the PR guy? Yes.
Chapek had no idea what he was getting into. He was getting into a brand new game compared to what he's never dealt with the Hollywood side of things.
Correct. He didn't.
Iger is the politician. Chapek is not.
I agree with that. I mean, I think that the memo, the way they handled that memo early in February of this year was mishandling of how Hollywood would react. He didn't perceive it, right? Because he thought it was just as how you behave in a normal corporation. This ain't a normal corporation. It has an audience of wokesters in the system, right? Of Hollywood. And he wasn't ready for that. So I agree with that. But in any event, Iger is not based. Iger is not based. He's just self-interested, and I think people who thought that Chapek was the wokester were incorrect. I think I even saw some people cheering in the fandom that Iger is back because they misunderstood who Iger is, and now they're like, ooh. Iger's
there's a lot of unclarity about that. I mean, I saw many people on Twitter, prominent conservative personalities, saying that Chapek was ousted because of wokeness, and they really should have known better.
Well, because they fall into a narrative. And I said this yesterday in Valiant Renegades thing, and I'm going to name someone because I think he's the one that got the conservative media onto this. And, many conservatives are very happy with the work he's done in other areas. Christopher Rufo, who's done a lot of work exposing, how these corporations have been taken over by ESG and social agendas, and that's very important work for a lot of people. But he also was the one that early on during this Florida bill thing, he was the one that said Chapek is bent the knee. Chapek is the one who's the problem, and he's held that stance. And I don't believe he's correct. I think he never read the tea leaves properly as to what was happening there. But because he's so respected in that media element, people adopted that narrative, which never made sense. And I've said in my Patreon, I've said on the show, it doesn't make sense. And now the narrative is not going to sustain itself. So everyone's going to be kind of embarrassed.
Well, a lot of people are embarrassed because they did take his talking points. I mean, you had people that I would have thought would have known better, talking specifically about the return of Iger will right the ship at Disney. And I was like, you're insane. This is the guy that put all these pieces in place to begin with. Why would bringing him back actually aid the cause and returning Disney to a family company? That's not the trajectory it's on. Iger has you're right. He's very self-interested. I mean, most people are. You have to be a certain level of narcissistic, sociopathic in order to make it that high in a company, not only to be, and to obviously try to be president of the United States. You're the sociopath. Sorry. But it's intriguing that so many people are so off base, and Iger's not going to return anything to anything. He just might hide it better.
Yeah. I just want to, and also on Iger's political aspirations, like he's been very, very open about how he wants to be president. It may not mean anything, but his current contract for Disney CEO, it kind of implies that he's supposed to train his replacement, and then he's gone for good after that, and that expires in 2 years. Which election happens in 2 years? I leave it at that.
President of the United States. I mean,
well, he can't. He cannot be a candidate in the next cycle. So he's setting himself up for beyond that. If it's even possible, he's 71 years old. He's not exactly young.
Well, that didn't stop the one currently in the White House.
True, but I mean, you're looking at 6.
No, but if you're going to run, you announce it about now. So.
Yeah, that's my point. You don't, and so I feel like he's just going to watch what happens in the next cycle, and then 2 years. He's going to bide his time for 2 years. The new cycle will happen, and then 2 years after that, he'll announce, or maybe even 1 year after that, he'll announce that his intention to run. And because he's going to try to, he has to build a machine, because there won't be one there, because he wasn't a political animal to begin with outside of his Hollywood ties. So it just takes time.
No, but if Biden wins re-election, or whoever they put in his place wins in the lefty side of things, Iger can probably figure he might get some kind of like ambassadorship to China, which we had talked about, or something else like that.
Well, he was set up for that. Probably that was actually a consolation prize, going into the last cycle. If I were him, I would be counting my blessings I didn't take that gig, because that would have been terrible right now.
Imagine being the ambassador to China right now, and in 2 years, will the CCP still be in control? I have no idea.
Yeah, a lot of problems. But
if there's a transition of sorts that happens over there, he's definitely going to want to. That's where he'll insert himself, right? Like that's his first chapter of his book.
Except that I'm not sure I would be like telling everybody just how proud I am about the lengths that I went to make sure these things came together. While he wasn't the person that came up with the idea of building the first park in Hong Kong, knowing full well that, they were about to be handing that country back to, the Middle Kingdom. He certainly spent, the lion's share of 3 or 4 years touting his accomplishment of putting the new Shanghai park in place. And that thing, I'm not sure I'd be jumping up and down about it right now either. So he has a lot of missteps, but, I need to be quiet because we got a lot of super chats. So.
Well, let's get started on some of those. We got Mr. Tickle Trunk here who says, main character looking for a thing named Searcher. They're even talking down to kids now. Also, no sexuality in kid stuff, just friendships. I think this is referring to the is this the Strange World thing?
Yeah, this is obviously a reference to the overtly sexual yet sexless Strange World.
Yeah, and as
that's ever been, apparently.
Horseradish Power says, listening to Chris talk about Strange World, am I on a bad acid trip? My 5-year-old self could write better stories. Go home, Disney. You're drunk. Yeah,
it does kind of read like a parody, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Tickle Trunk says Disney's Brave New World. Thumbs up, easy. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and everyone smash that thumbs up if you haven't done so already. Like me, right now with Kamran Pasha, you are getting the absolute best industry interpretation of Disney's Townhall that you're going to get anywhere, and you're getting it in real time right here. So hit that like for Kamran.
Well, that's very flattering. I will say, because I'm not a humble person, but I will say it's one voice, and I do have the benefit of at least just having some friends inside of Disney on the Patreon now who are sharing perspective that I don't have, and that's helping me to share that with all of you. So thank you for that, Andre.
Also, on that note, everyone, make sure to check out Kamran's Patreon. You will not regret it. Like for industry insights, that is the place you want to be. And the link for that is also in the description, as per usual.
Yeah, and then Theodore McCarthy says the point of injecting deviant sexuality into children's entertainment is to mainstream it. Yes. A separate branding makes no sense from that perspective. Yeah, that's where I was saying, just don't make it, period. Like, it shouldn't be, a part of it. Like, even if you look at cis, quote unquote, cis relationships in these films, like they're hardly existent, right? Like, they're not even that big of a deal. Most cases, there's a kiss at most. And even then, I would argue that you don't really even need that most of the time.
Well, so, and just linking that to our earlier conversation that the Iger's figured out culture is changing because of a politician. There is something that happened that's in the news. It's interesting that apparently there's a lawsuit going on in Ohio that was announced just a few days ago, where Christian and Muslim parents of Ohio are getting together and suing a school board over transgender bathroom issues and letting boys who say they're girls into the locker room with girls. And so now these two communities have not, in the last couple of decades, been eye to eye, at least on foreign policy issues, right? And at least many people are suspicious of at least the Muslim community within the Christian community. That was the case. Now, because we're actually having this place where people's families are like, I don't want to send my kids this stuff, right? To address what Thomas said, this bizarre moment of drag queen children's readings, which I couldn't have imagined as 1980s was even in the realm of where America was going to go, right? A lot of people people say, why do we need drag queens teaching children? And some people's response is, what do you care about drag queen shows for kids? Would you be upset if a woman was a stripper? I was like, yeah, most people would be upset by that. Most people don't want their kids having a stripper reading to them. I mean, so what's happening here, right? The conversation's gotten so bizarro. You're now getting all these communities and weren't necessarily always getting along going, yeah, we're united on this issue. So culture is changing in ways that wokesters did not expect.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. And then Rational Ginger, who says, the problem is marketing graduates from the woke U and are taught representation above all else. Yeah, this is a big problem there. That's where a lot of it starts.
Also, I may add to that, the students of digital marketing who are taught engagement, and you create engagement through fan baiting, basically piss off the fans, do all this stunt casting and everything like that, and you get all this engagement. Of course, they didn't get to the lesson where hopefully that engagement is supposed to translate into box office for the client.
Yeah,
but this is of no concern to the marketing PR firms, because they're just hired to create engagement. Then they're off to the next client.
Well, they took the wrong lesson from the attention economy model that they're leaning into there. They're intentionally pissing off people who would normally bring money to their door, and they're not seeing any results in a positive manner. And at the same time, they're essentially taking out fans and entire brands because of those marketing strategies. And the continued leaning into those has yielded, well, people purchasing fewer and fewer associated merchandise items to go along with all of these IPs. So people aren't buying the toys, the clothing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's bad learning. And yes, there is such thing as bad attention. There is.
Yeah, and there's 2,600 people watching right now, and that's relevant because I love the Atari 2600. So, and then we lost like a bunch of people all of a sudden. That was weird. So somebody shut us down.
My comments on Drag Queen Story Hour offended people. I apologize if that's the case. That I certainly think there's probably better ways to have children.
But I was going to say, hit the like button.
It just went up again, so maybe not.
Yeah, hit the like button. It's just fluctuating.
When I come on the screen, it goes down. When I go off the screen, it goes up. So sorry, Cameron. Apologize.
And then we had Elf next, but that one's for Chris, and he stepped away. So until he gets back, we'll come back to that one. I'm not skipping it. We'll just save it for Chris because it's for him. Chad Repnerine says, "What's it going to take for Disney to sell off Lucasfilm and Marvel? Star Wars and Marvel being Disney-fied is bad for both brands, in my opinion." Well, we've kind of said this a few times over. Basically, they'll be sold with Disney. They're not going to piece them off. Like that's a extreme scenario at this point. Chances are, if somebody buys Disney, then yeah, that's how they'll buy Lucasfilm and Marvel.
Not necessarily.
Got any different takes?
I would postulate
they'll sell it. They'll sell it.
Yeah, I would postulate that in a given situation, if Disney ever were to do something similar to what Fox did when they sold off their entire entertainment division and kept the news, I can see a scenario where Disney would section off their acquired entertainment division, like Lucasfilm, Marvel, stuff like that, sell that off to Apple, and keep the parks and their legacy characters and classic animation and go back to the core and basically be the company they were before Iger made those acquisitions in the first place. I can see that as a scenario.
You also have a situation where, sorry, Cameron, I was just going to say that they have a lot of other things they could sell off before they get to that point.
Obviously.
I mean, I have stated, because I'm happy to take radical positions because I think the situation at Disney is radical right now. The behavior is radical, and so I'm going to take the position that I think everything is on the table, literally. And there's ways. I mean, it is complicated to sell off Lucasfilm because now you've got it in the parks and things like that. You've got all these things you've invested. You've got a Disney hotel related to Star Wars. It's complicated. It's not undoable. Depending on how bad this situation, whatever the secret hole is that they're trying to cover with all this shenanigans, my FTX claim, whatever it is, then I think that they can work out the situation, especially if Mr. Gutierrez, who is I've now discovered was the head of mergers and acquisitions of Microsoft. He's got the know-how to pull off transactions that would seem incomprehensible to us and seem improbable to us. And so, I will quote one thing I saw on Deadline on the comments. Just again, these are the comments on Deadline, which is, tends to be very, anti-Chapek, at least was pro-Iger, but the comments are very anti-Iger right now because now that Iger made all these comments today that disappointed what people thought he was going to do. So I just want to read one that's up there. It says, Disney has serious financial issues they're dealing with. They've lost over $20 billion in market cap this year. The board brought Iger back to sell Disney, period. 2 years is not enough time for Iger to train his CEO and sell Disney, and suggesting you might want to bring back Kevin Mayer and others. But he said, I tend to take that opinion that the behavior is not normal, and the behavior is not the normal of trying to right a ship. It's the behavior of a panic of attempting to sell at least assets or portions of Disney. And if it turns out that my FTX theory is correct, this may be so big that the whole company might be in some kind of jeopardy, and they're going to have to come up with radical, crazy stuff in the next few weeks or even in the next few days. So I'm going to continue to take the position on the edge of the probability curve for a lot of people that there's crazier stuff happening here, and then nothing is off the table. In fact, a lot of things are on the table that seem improbable. That's my opinion.
I would agree with that, because one thing that I've learned in Hollywood is that if the price is right, nothing is sacred. And with Disney's in a desperate plea and the board agrees, they will sell whatever assets they think will get them out of any hole or problem, regardless of the implications or the investments they've made previously. That's just the way things work in corporate Hollywood. They will sell it. They don't care as long as they can save their own butts. And that should always be something to consider, especially over the next few weeks with as new news comes out about this change in regime and what their plans are for the 2023 year.
Yeah. My basic thing though is, like I said, they'll sell off Fox or a bunch of other things before they'd ever sell off
Possibly.
Lucasfilm or Marvel.
But if the buyers are only saying we only want these properties and they're not Fox or any of that, but maybe they are Lucasfilm or maybe they are Marvel.
Marvel is the only one that can get any money
to
for
discuss it,
yeah.
and then they'll make a decision whether or not they agree with it. They will convene to discuss it 100%.
I was gonna say the problem you have now though is Marvel's the only one they might be able to get any money out of. The problem with Star Wars, there's no way they're selling that for $2 billion, let alone $4 billion.
Oh, they can. They've bought things and sold it for less before in Disney. They have a habit history.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
People on the board that are still there from that time that are like, we did it then, we can do it now.
Yeah, Power Rangers. They bought it for $1 billion, sold it for $100 million.
Power Rangers ain't fucking Star Wars though.
No, but it was
Power Rangers might be a bigger brand than Star Wars right now.
It was a bigger brand than Star Wars in the early 90s, and then it deflated when Star Wars came back, and now it's still a better brand than Star Wars is today.
Exactly. Star Wars ain't Star Wars anymore. And Disney knows it. They have the numbers to prove it.
I'd have to see some numbers to believe that Power Rangers was anywhere near the numbers of Star Wars, though. Let's get real here.
You have to research the toy numbers on Power Rangers because I'm pretty sure
that's what I'm saying.
Fairly consistent, and also probably a lot better than current Star Wars right now.
Maybe right now, but overall in history, though,
it doesn't matter the history. It's what's happening right now. That's Hollywood. Hollywood is always about now. Rarely do they ever talk about then. Or
even now, Power Rangers ain't exactly the strongest brand either.
They're approaching a 30-year anniversary. That's not something to shake a stick at. So.
No, but I'm just saying it's not like they have anything that's in major. Like their last movie flopped. So.
Oh, the movie side is not really where Power Rangers makes its money. It makes its money in television and toys.
Well, what show do they have running right now?
They're trying to make it in films, but they keep on grabbing the wrong people to write the stories, and that's.
They need to hire Script Doctor and myself. And I'm sure
like,
we're both on various do not hire lists, which might be reconsidered in the current crisis. Who knows?
Yeah.
Then we got Elf here who's got a question for Chris, who's back, who says, "Hey, Chris, this is why I think Japan is ahead of Hollywood because they have anime series or movie for every type of person."
That's a good comment. I agree. I mean, look, anime is just sort of a, it's not a genre per se, because any genre can be anime, science fiction, fantasy, horror, but it's, I agree. There's so much, once you start to go down that rabbit hole, there's a lot of great stuff. Thank you, Alf, for support of the channel.
And I will say, just anecdotally, here I am, Thanksgiving. It was, first time my entire family, all my sisters, all the kids were in one place together in a long time, right? And I was talking to my nephew, and niece, and all that stuff about what they're interested in. And the consistent thing about multiple branches of my family is all these kids of this young generation, the teenagers, they're all watching Japanese material. Right. I was stunned by that. I mean, they're all like more interested in Japanese material than they are in Star Wars or anything else. Right. And so that says something about where this cultural phenomenon is going. A whole generation is moving in this direction. And as usual, Hollywood is slow to recognize that, partly because of our own arrogance that we have the cultural, we're the leaders of culture worldwide. Well, I'm seeing it with my own eyes changing in front of me. So.
Yeah, indeed. And then moving on from there, we have Joseph Fraya, who says for $5, what if Iger was brought back to fix his own mess by the big shareholders? Almost as punishment. You broke it, you buy it situation.
Well, but why would he agree to that? He must believe. I mean, I'm sure that's certainly part of their motivation, right? But there's something on him to make him want to do this, and it may just be ego of he's ruined his own legacy and he wants to try to fix it, which fits his ego. But if, again, my nefarious conspiracy theory on FTX is true, he may have been involved in getting the company, or at least his underlings who remained at the company, involved in something that was going to help the Democratic Party's aspirations and blew up in their face. And so he may be brought in because he's partly responsible for the crisis and they needed him to cover it up. That's, again, my nefarious speculation, because, otherwise it's just like, the board, a bunch of idiots, and he's an idiot for taking that job. Maybe they are, but I don't know.
Yeah, very good point. And then John Thomas wonders for $10. Chris, script. In Sixth Sense, was Bruce Willis the only one aware that he was dead during filming, or was he in the dark until the end? I could see doing either so other actors don't interact with him. Oh, that's a good question. Chris, what say you? Did Bruce Willis, did he know? Did anyone else know?
I don't have any direct knowledge of that. So
neither do I. I would say if it was in the script and Bruce Willis was given the entire script, he would know. I know that with a lot of productions, especially on scales of that size, a lot of actors are only given the pages that they're there to do. They don't read the entire script. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of them had no idea until they saw the final film. But I wish I knew this. I wish I knew the background of that. Unfortunately, I do not.
I know a little bit. I know a little bit on this. I mean, I don't know the definitive thing, but I do remember that there was a massive bidding war over this script, right? It was at the time, it was one of the highest sales for $3 million, which, other scripts now sell for, but that was a breakthrough number back at that time, the 90s, that all these people were fighting for it. And what I do remember is Bruce Willis was it was Bruce Willis's attachment that moved the project forward with Night Shyamalan as director, because when I believe it was Disney, but the studio that bought it wasn't. Night Shyamalan was like, well, I want to direct this. He's like, dude, you've made like a short film. No one knows who you are, right? Take the $3 million and shut up and go away and make your next movie. And he apparently spoke with Bruce Willis, and Bruce Willis was like, no, I like this guy. Give this guy a chance. And my understanding is, and I read this in reports at the time, that Shyamalan, basically Willis convinced the studio to give Night Shyamalan basically a week on set. And if the dailies didn't work, he could be fired. Right? That came because that was the only studio was going to do it. They were ready to replace Shyamalan from the beginning. They didn't want him. The only reason I would think Bruce Willis would fight so hard for Night Shyamalan, this unknown first-time director essentially, to do this is because he knew how powerful the script was, and he knew what the ending was. It doesn't mean that others didn't. I think it would have been smart because it really was a well-kept secret in Hollywood. I was shocked when I saw that movie, and there was no leakage of it. So it may very well have been like the moment where apparently only Mark Hamill knew that the actual line that they were going to dub in was, no, I am your father, right? Apparently the line that David Prowse was saying under the mask was, Obi-Wan killed your father, which would have been shocking to the crew when they heard that. It's like, Obi-Wan killed Luke's father. And that would have been enough to justify, Hamill's reaction. No, that's not true. That's impossible. And only Hamill knew. And apparently Mr. Prowse was quite upset when he saw the film and he saw what was dubbed in. And he said in an interview, I felt like a jerk. I felt like I'd been taken for a ride. That may very well have happened on Sixth Sense, that nobody else except Willis knew on the set the truth of it. But I mean, it's hard because you'd have some actors, he's interacting with people in scenes, or at least sitting there and being there quiet. And Shyamalan would have to tell people, don't say anything to him. Don't even look at him. Don't acknowledge him. And that would have certainly set off people's red flags that there's something more going on here if that was the direction they give. So I think at least some of the major players, Tony Collette, others knew that. It just makes sense to me.
All right. That's perfect summary there, I think.
Looking up here, you're pretty much on the button there from what you're saying, Cameron. David Vogel is the then president of Walt Disney, who bought the script for $3 million with the stipulation that Shyamalan could direct. The studio was so pissed, they fired him over it. And they ended up selling the production rights to Spyglass Entertainment. So in the end of the day, they didn't even probably make nearly as much as they could have had they not sold it in the first fucking place.
Was that Eisner or Iger? Was that Eisner?
This was under Eisner's reign, I believe, but
one clown begets another clown.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's what happened there. But yeah, as far as the rest goes, which is ironic, I don't know how Kathleen Kennedy and Frank Marshall got involved, but they are the producers of that too, by the way. They must have something to do with something or other in there, but
Frank's been around everywhere, and Kathleen's kind of followed him everywhere. So,
because for those who may not remember, if I remember right, that was, if not the highest grossing, one of the highest grossing films of 1999 or whatever when it came out. Yeah. So go figure on that one. They fucked that up. Spyglass made a pretty penny off it though. Here's one for Chris, though. Mecha J says, Chris, would you say Strange World is cringe from start to finish, or does it start off okay and then the cringe level rises?
It's okay for about the first 3-4 minutes. There's kind of this cool action scene with Searcher and his dad, played by Dennis Quaid. It's this cool action scene, and then it's just this montage of like, here's my family, here's my 3-legged dog, here's a girl in a wheelchair, and you're just like I say, the movie comes off like a teacher that is featured on Libs of TikTok wrote the script. That's how bad it is. It's just so cringe at every level, and it turns people off to that. Like you look at a movie like Spoiler Alert, which by all accounts looks like a very heartwarming, film about loss of a partner, right? Like it will turn mainstream audiences off to anything gay, when not everything. It seems the way that Disney uses inclusion in such a cringe way, while other films do it, other movies and television shows do it. It doesn't feel quite as, it feels organic, right? Like it doesn't feel shoehorned in. I think maybe it's because Disney's so loud about it, and when you see a lot of the marketing, but yeah, it's really bad. And seeing that story about that guy who walked out with his son, it doesn't surprise me. I can't imagine anyone single-digit age as a child enjoying this film, and teenagers are just going to think it's lame.
Well, that was the story he told too, was that his kid said, I don't like this movie, Dad. Can we leave?
Look, I'm sure that would happen. Kids' attention spans are already bad these days.
Oh, yeah.
So, and they're so used to like, something's on streaming. If I don't like it, I switch it. So, I mean, that's not, for me, if I'm in a movie theater, I'm going to stick to the end. I've only walked out of a couple films in my whole life, but this is just, like I say, the first 3-4 minutes, kind of a cool action scene. And then it goes to this montage that's like, I don't know. It's almost like giving a finger to certain members of the audience in a way. And it all happens at once. You're like, holy shit, why are they throwing all of this in our faces? It's bizarre. So there you go.
There you go. And then let's see what we got next for you here, because I know you got to head out here soon, looks like. I'm lost. There we go. Thank you, Six. Kareen says, Chris, have you seen Devotion for Glenn Powell? It seems like typecasting. Also, the Whitney Houston movie looks good during Christmas alternative to Avatar. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's coming out.
I have not seen Devotion, but Alan Ing at Film Threat has seen it. He said it's very good. It's definitely on my list of something to see. And the fact that it's based on a true story is really fascinating. So I'm hearing good things about Devotion, and I plan to see it. And thank you for your support of the channel, Kareen.
Indeed. And then we got London 1965-7 says, with the greatest respect, Chris Gore has forgotten that Disney wants to educate, not entertain. Hence, no separate channel for norms and no choice.
Well, I would thank you for your support of the channel, London. I will say, I don't know if they want to educate so much as re-educate. It's that's the feeling I get. And especially you see something like Strange World. How did this movie get released theatrically is beyond me. They should have looked at it in rough form. When you get those, like, basically you can almost watch an entire animated movie, but it's unfinished, right? It's just temp audio and whatever. Someone had to look at that and say, look, this is a streaming movie. Let's not spend the 180 million. Let's just spend 60 or 30 or whatever it is. Just how this movie got a major theatrical release is just beyond me. I'm amazed.
Well, I actually had a theory, and then that was supported by the trade, so surprisingly Deadline, which is an anti-Bob Chapek trade, when the first returns came in over the weekend, that this is going to be a disaster, right? Deadline, to my surprise, did an analysis of it and concluded what my theory was. Why was this released theatrically? Even Deadline said it should have been put in Disney Plus, right? So why was it released? And Deadline admitted because Bob Chapek had no choice. Had he attempted to send it to Disney Plus, the woke mob would have come for him and saying, you are burying an LGBTQ character, right? And this is Deadline, who hates Chapek, admitting that it was the wrong move business-wise, and the crowd forced him into it, right? And really, he's still out anyway, right? And still this thing gets out. And so this is, I think we're reaching a moment actually where even, especially we're seeing the coverage in the trades now, where the trades are beginning to realize Iger isn't doing what they want either. I think there's this come to Jesus moment in the trade now where we give everybody what they want, put it out there. The trades have been supporting. We've got to, Chapek has to be very pro, the rainbow agenda, and then put it out there. Oh, it's a disaster. That makes it look really bad because that affirms that the market and the audience largely doesn't want this kind of character or material, or at least the way it's presented in this movie. And so that's embarrassing. And now, get rid of Chapek. Iger comes in. Oh, Iger's just going to do what Chapek did? No. The trades are looking silly because now we're talking about how everyone's getting egg on their face in the last few days. The trades are beginning to face that everything that they push for has created a world that they've lost control of, right? And it's a remarkable change to me.
I just think at some point they have to look at the data and the feedback from the audience, that the stuff that's overtly woke or kind of in your face just doesn't resonate with audiences. It just doesn't. Now, is there an audience for that type of film? Sure. It's a limited audience, but it's just like having come from the world of indie film. Those movies have a small, very, very passionate audience, but it's a smaller audience. You have to scale the content to the audience that's out there, and the audience that's out there for this kind of content is small. It's a small audience. So make movies. I was saying, Kamran, I don't know if you heard, I was talking earlier that I think that Disney should spin off its own brand, call it Disney Sparkle, and it can be gay all day. It can be gay and everything that they want to do. Just make it the most extreme version of that, and then see how well it succeeds in the marketplace. Just a separate segmented brand. I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I mean, I think it certainly is a smarter way than Disney has been doing it, right? But I think the fear is exactly that once you have a separate brand, people will recognize it's likely not going to do as well financially as they hoped, and is going to suggest that maybe culture isn't, supporting this kind of stuff the way they'd like, which it's, especially with everything happening with Elon Musk taking over Twitter and essentially, altering the woke monopoly of social media. It's too terrifying for them to actually. That's what we're seeing. Literally, if you all saw Monica Lewinsky, the great Monica Lewinsky, put out a tweet a few days ago, where I forgot what the context of the tweet was, but it was something that she thought, it was. I think it was about how should we censor bad people, right? And the vast majority of people were against her, and she couldn't believe that. And her response was because she had like hundreds of thousands of people responding to the poll and voting in the other direction than she expected. And her response to that was that, look at what Twitter has done. They've created a new algorithm to get all these people to vote against me, rather than accepting that maybe her perspective isn't what at least that audience on Twitter wanted, right? And so that's the shock for them, that we're not actually in tune with society, because that's been hidden for about 5 years, and now that's coming out. Now, the last thing I want to say on this is that the other alternative that perhaps smart people at Disney, who just probably try to shut up and keep their jobs, unlike me, who spoke up and lost my job, right? Smart people at Disney should be thinking this: if we want to do this kind of stuff, how do we do it exactly the way Chris talked about? That's not in your face and in a way that pushes people away. And an example of that would be Shazam. I love Shazam. Shazam is a naturally diverse movie with a naturally diverse cast, all these foster kids. And one of the kids happens to be gay. It's just mentioned in a very simple way when they're running around as superheroes and they land in some strip club and one of the characters goes, oh, she's hot. And he's like, not for me, right? That's it, right? That's it. And the character, and I loved all the characters. They were all ethnically diverse. They were sexually diverse. And I love that movie, right? And that's how you do it. You just make a movie where they're normal people and, their identity isn't the defining element of the character. Disney could do that, but that means you got to get rid of the people who see the world in this ideological fashion of us versus them, rather than we're all in this together. And so we got to get there.
And while I loved Shazam as well, and while the movie did not save the world, it entertained. And it was really a lot of fun. I think everyone, the consensus is people really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, I have to run, everybody. It's just been a pleasure hanging out with all of you. I appreciate it. Kamran, Andre, Culture, Tom, Script, thank you so much. I'll be back next Monday. And also check out the Film Threat live stream at 1 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesday. Hollywood on the Rocks. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff, including Violent Night, which I'm seeing tonight. Should be a lot of fun. All right, take care, everybody. Always great to hang with you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Chris.
Appreciate it.
All right, we're also going to be losing Cameron here soon, so we've got a couple for him. The wheels on the bus run over J.J. Abrams' career, sends in 14 South African rands and says, Cameron, how long do you think Susan Arnold lasts now?
It's a great question. I've always stated, and I continue to believe that Susan Arnold was the person that put Bob Chapek there against perhaps the wishes, certainly of Bob Iger, who never liked the man, and other members of the board. I'm sure she was quite shocked by whatever the event was that caused them to force Chapek out, and as she probably decided. I don't know that. Did they ever announce whether the vote was unanimous? Because when Peter Rice was ousted, and a few months ago, and the board unanimously, gave Chapek a 3-year contract extension, they made it clear that it was unanimous. I don't know that Chapek's ouster was announced to be unanimous. So I'm sure that if it wasn't, then I'm guessing Ms. Arnold and perhaps a couple others were like, this is the wrong play here. But she got outvoted. And so she's a survivor like everybody else. She knows she's risen up Procter & Gamble. I mean, she's rose American corporate politics better than anybody, probably better than Bob Chapek does. So she's going to be fine. If I am correct that there's some horrifying thing that they're hiding, like an FTX scandal, then she's going to do everything possible to cover that hole and get the hell out of there. Because if I'm right, she's going to take off. She's going to take off and take her severance, as quickly as she can cover that. If I'm right, if it's just some other thing happening here, she'll stick around for a while. So we'll see.
Well, I think Chapek also made some enemies out of some of investors, like you mentioned, like an hour ago, Dan Loeb, right, the activist investor. He wanted to part ways with ESPN, but at the same time, he also wanted 2 board members. They only gave him 1. So he might have felt a little irritated at those types of things. And upon discovering, some other stuff that had been happening in the background, he may have actually helped get rid of Chapek and is probably wanting that other board member. So I would imagine there might be a seat that's going to change, whether it be Arnold or another. I would suspect that you'll see another seat change in that room.
Indeed. And Lord Kamina says, Cameron, watch Recreators, a story about stories.
I'm not familiar with this. Can anyone tell me what Recreators is about?
It's the first I've heard of it.
So I'll look it up. But thank you, Lord Kamina, for letting me know that. I'm going to go find out more about this. But thank you for the heads up. And by the way, the ultimate story about stories, in my opinion, remains The Life of Pi, right? Which is one of my favorite films of all time, and understands. I've been very open about the fact that I'm a religious person, a person of faith, and it understands why people have faith, which is the story works, right? And that movie understands storytelling better, the power of storytelling better than anything else seen come out of Hollywood. So if you haven't seen The Life of Pi, I think you should watch.
Interesting film. It's a very interesting film. And let's see here. What else we got here? I know there's at least one more for you. We got Mecha J, who says, Cameron, with Strange Worlds becoming a flop, what plans do you think Iger will have for Disney's animation division now that he's back?
I'll tell you the plan. It's whatever Chapek planned. That's the plan, right? He's just going to do whatever Chapek did. So, Chapek knew that Strange Worlds was going to bomb. And so as the man that he is, he always had a strategy, just like he's like, Scarlett Johansson, you're going to sue me for Black Widow not being put out exclusive theatrically? Well, I'm going to put out Shang-Chi exclusively. Oh, it made less money than Black Widow did combined with digital. Guess your lawsuit's going to go away. So he always has a plan. And so this guy had a plan. I'm sure he had a written plan that Kareem Daniel was going to execute, but I'm sure others who are still there knew about it. And so, yeah, whatever the plan is, we've speculated, or I've speculated on Midnight Jets for some time, that the smart move would be to reorganize all their animation, perhaps buy up Skydance and bring Mr. Lasseter back in. I don't know if that's going to happen under whatever's happening in Disney in their internal crisis, but yeah, I think Chapek has allowed Bob Iger's bad version of animation to play out over the last couple of years, and we've seen the final blow of it. Right. So they're going to have to clean that up simply because they have no choice. So whatever Chapek's plan was is going to be implemented.
And with that, I know you had to also leave us. So Cameron, anything before you go? Do check out your Patreon, of course, to stay up to date, I suppose. Other than that, anything else?
No, I mean, I want to thank all of you. I want to thank you again, Andre and Tom, for inviting me on. It's been crazy, and I'm actually trying to get work done. I actually have to write a long article for Patreon, but this Disney stuff doesn't stop, right? So I actually have to write a screenplay. There's other things I got to do, but this thing is madness, and I'm glad I can come and participate with this wonderful panel of people who are very smart. There's a lot of opinions out there in the fandoms, a lot of opinions on YouTube, but Midnight's Edge consistently has a sophisticated level of opinion, and I think people should keep supporting this channel, keep watching it, hit the like button here, and come join me on my Patreon, because just today, I mean, I'm getting Disney Insider's perspective on this town hall, the point of view that we're not seeing in the trades, and that's coming directly from my Patreon members who are adding this perspective. So I'm pretty proud of what we've created there. So again, thank you all, and everyone stick around. There's a lot more interesting conversation here with Script Doctor and Culture and Andre and Tom. So God bless.
Thank you, Cameron. Have a great day.
Thanks for dropping by. Thank you, Cameron, and have a great day.
Peace. Take care.
All right, let's move on.
Indeed. Thanks again to Cameron for hopping in there unannounced. That was a nice little surprise for Andre, though, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I love unannounced guests.
I knew you would. I could hear it in
awesome.
your voice. You're like, oh, yeah. And we have a special guest. Gundam Warrior 1 says, sounds to me like DreamWorks Illumination Cartoon Saloon and anime studios have a rare window of opportunity to knock Disney down on its ass. Yes, Gundam. And this is why, even though, Culture and I were having a friendly little disagreement about Mario, I think that's why that movie has a chance, because kids are desperate for entertainment right now, and Disney ain't fulfilling that. It's pretty clear, because if they were, then their audience wouldn't be over 50% adults on Disney Plus, for one thing. And then the other part is these movies, everything they've come out with in the last, not even just these last two with Strange World and Lightyear, I'm reaching back now to think of the last time they've had a successful animated film. And it's been some time. I think probably what? I know they probably had at least one or two since Wreck-It Ralph, but that's how far back I'm stretching now. Because I don't even think the sequel to that did well.
Seeing Red?
Did that do okay? I don't think that did okay, because that came out during the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean,
no, not the panda one. The one of the emotions inside.
That's
Inside Out.
Inside Out.
Inside of me.
Inside Out.
Inside Out. Sorry.
Yeah, and that might have been, and that might have predated Wreck-It Ralph 2, because I think Wreck-It Ralph 2 did okay in the box office, but that's probably the last one I could think of that may have made money. People are saying Frozen 2. That was
it didn't really do what the first film did.
Not at all, but. Yeah, Inside Out was a little older, because I think that was still during Lasseter's period, wasn't it? Because my kid was still in school when that came out.
Yeah, I mean, it was Pete Docter's story. I'm trying to go back in time. I mean, it's the same guy who gave us Onward.
Well, the last Lasseter Pixar movie technically was Toy Story 4, but the last one he actually really worked on would have been The Good Dinosaur, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
That was so bad.
I know, but my point being is, like, Inside Out was actually like 5 years before.
You know what? I think Killy Bite actually came up with the right answer. I think
Moana. Yeah. I forgot about Moana. You're right. Yep.
That was a really good one too.
It was great.
That's the last one that I would say is an actual arguable success for them.
Yeah.
What about Coco? Does that count?
It was influential, but it wasn't Moana.
Yeah, I want to look. I'll look at the box office wise. What year did that come out? 2022? Was that? No, that's not that new. It came out last year or the year before? Coco did. Or am I thinking of Encanto? When did Coco come out then? That was 2000 what? Nobody? Anybody?
Encanto was last year.
Encanto was, but he was asking about Coco.
Wasn't that like 17, 18?
2017.
Something?
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Okay. Let's see here. Oh shit, that one did 807 million. Yeah.
Oh, so it wasn't that.
Inside Out would have been 2015, so that answers that one. Yeah. Soul, people were bringing up Soul. Let's see how that one did, because I don't think that one did nearly as well.
Yeah, that didn't do too well.
Didn't it go straight to streaming?
I thought it did. Wasn't that
that was Luca?
Luca that was Luca. You're right. Yeah.
Raya and the Dragon of Doom or something?
Soul did 121 million, which means that I don't think it would have made money because they probably spent at least 80 to 100 million on the budget, I bet. Oh, budget's 150, so yeah. Soul lost money. So yeah, that'd be the last one then, probably. So anyway, yeah, back to the super chat. Yeah, at this point, yeah, they have a chance. There is a chance with Minions, especially if you want to make an argument, they already have. Because Minions has not had a miss yet. In fact, I think they keep going up and up and up. Even if you give credit to the pandemic for the last one here, it still did very well in comparison. Because I think it did on par with the last Minions film, did it not, Culture? Because it did $1 billion, I know that.
It did rather well. I can't remember the box office for it, but I think
it was pretty close to even billion. Like
it performed very well, surprisingly. So, yeah.
So they have a chance right now, especially Illumination, with both the Minions and Mario Brothers coming up. Because I think Culture might be underestimating how popular Mario is now.
Look, I'm not saying it's not popular. I'm saying I don't see this thing. Look, if you were confident, if you don't have more
to see the world stop, if they released a Mario movie to Mario game next week, the whole world would come to a stop.
That's true, but that's the game, right? And the last Mario films weren't exactly super exciting to people, and
but we're talking so far in the rear window.
I mean, and without Johnny Legs, there is no way.
You got a point there. Without Johnny Legs, I think they're fucked.
Yeah, they're.
And I think that's something
I'm kidding,
would agree
folks.
with.
Kidding. Oh man.
Yeah, obviously John Leguizamo doesn't know what he's talking about. But anyway, Matthew W says "Song of the South" sounds more appropriate than "Strange Worlds." You're not wrong.
It was. I mean,
it has more morals in it, probably.
Yeah, that for one thing, and also, and this is the thing that gets to me. This is something that Lorena Criol has pointed out. So all credit to her for this. But basically, this is a movie that actually captures some of the local folklore from the time and the location, right? You don't really have any other movies doing that, but this one does to capture the tales of Brother Rabbit and Brother Bear, and I'm not going to claim any detailed knowledge, but still, I think it's a shame that the movie gets to be cancelled and just removed for that reason. And same thing that they're doing in the park. So here you have something that actually captures a piece of history and it's removed, whereas Strange World is just propaganda and nothing else. There's nothing, no history, no nothing. The only thing that it does is that it captures the propaganda of a moment. So kind of like a Leni Riefenstahl movie from the 40s, only without any artistic merit.
And this is the one. Thank you, Many Dragon, for reminding me. This is the movie I was trying to remember earlier. I'm like, I know there's a movie coming out that's a kids movie this Christmas. It's the Puss in Boots movie with Antonio Banderas. They're doing another one, and it's already. I guess it's got limited release. It's getting like 100% in the audience score already.
Well, it's Universal, so maybe.
Well, yeah, Illumination, Universal, or that's DreamWorks, yeah. DreamWorks, Puss in Boots, yeah. It's a spinoff of Shrek, so who knows? Maybe Puss in Boots could kick Avatar in the nuts a little bit. It's been a while since they've had a Shrek Puss in Boots movie.
But it might be worthwhile counter-programming.
What did the last one do? What was it, 2011? Okay.
Yeah, but that was a different world.
You're not wrong. But it made $555 million in 2011. That's nothing to shake a stick at for a spin-off movie. Considering what did Shrek 2 do? That was what he debuted in, because that was, I think, the biggest of the Shrek films. Shrek 2 did just under $1 billion at the box office. So there you go. At that time. So I wouldn't count Puss in Boots out yet. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to take a big chunk out of Avatar, but it might kick him in the shins a bit. but you never know. And yes, Many Dragon, yes, thank you for reminding me of that, because I just saw that the other day too, and I'm like, oh, interesting. The fans or the audience is enjoying this movie, so that's a plus. Ministry of Wrong Think says, so is it pretty much agreed upon that Disney Sus is the modern equivalent to a straight to DVD release in terms of quality? Well, in a lot of the stuff they have released, yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
In fact, a lot of people, like, even though we had pointed out that they were dumb for not releasing Disenchanted, is that what the new one's called?
Yeah, and Hocus Pocus 2.
And Hocus Pocus 2 in theaters, especially Disenchanted. I'm like, are you fucking on crack? When that first movie came out, oh my God, especially on video, like, we couldn't keep it on the shelf. Mothers and daughters loved Enchanted. It was huge at that time. And Hocus Pocus is one that gained a big audience over the years. So, but I heard that the quality of at least Hocus Pocus, I can't speak to Disenchanted, but Hocus Pocus, I heard, looked like it was shot straight to video. Like it was that low of quality. So in that sense, yes. I can't speak to Disenchanted though. I haven't seen that. So, but yeah, Enchanted made Amy Adams' career. Exactly. Exactly that. And they even got McDreamy back in the sequel. So I can't believe they didn't put it out theatrically. That makes no sense to me, especially in the holiday season. If you told me we could put out Strange World or we can put out Disenchanted in theaters for Thanksgiving, to me, the no-brainer is Disenchanted. I don't know about you guys, but that's just me.
Anything that isn't Strange World.
Right? I mean,
anything
at this point,
over that, like literally anything. I mean, I'd take some of the colorless, dreary, comic puppetry that I grew up with and put that in theaters over Strange Worlds.
And Donnie seemed to like it, but Donnie's a bit biased because I know Donnie loves music. So,
but very quickly, I mean, they really need to reevaluate their release, because again, the reason that we got Strange World rather than Disenchanted was because they couldn't disappoint the woke. This is the problem with catering to this stuff, is you're trapped with it forever. And that's the position they find themselves in, I think. And that's why we ended up with it.
Yeah.
And then we've got, let's see here, we've got Sheriff Noble Crap.
Sheriff No Bullcrap.
I know, but Noble Crap sounds cool, funny too.
Prime Minister Trudeau.
I'm taking a Noble Crap.
Strange World, 5 stars. Yeah, I'm not surprised he would.
Oh, of course he would. Of course he would. Yeah, it's right up his alley. Theodore McCarthy comes in with another $4.99 thank you and says the left thinks the market is a social construct they can reshape with enough propaganda.
Yeah, well, that's not just the left. That's authoritarians of any make or any political color. It just so happens that in contemporary society, that's the place where the authoritarians come from. And then moving on from there, we have
Mike and Ayers, who says, I was reading all weekend in a few places that Chapek may have been cooking books and they need to replace him at once. It might not be his policy. Yeah, it's funny, Mike, because I was bringing up this part on Friday. That's kind of what I do here, is like I look at every angle. Like, what if he is the one who fucked up?
And this is the thing that is part of Kamran's argument. That because this thing about cooking the books, well, this is specifically the thing that the CFO brought up as the means why we need to get rid of this guy right away. And as Kamran pointed out, that doesn't really make any sense, because Chapek wouldn't be able to cook the books in any way that the CFO wasn't aware of or actively involved with. So something is decidedly fishy with that argument, and it plays right into Kamran's argument.
Well, and what I was bringing up was that it may have been something stemming from his whole time at the parks and going back to the whole $6 billion park discrepancy thing. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
that
know if
would
it
be a
has any.
different matter.
That's what I was saying. It may tie into that somehow. And then the other thing that was brought up was the whole idea of Chapek's shifting the cost for these Disney Plus shows, evidently, was the other thing that was brought up.
Except I'm going to keep pointing out that everybody is doing that right now.
Well, of course, everybody's doing
It's
that.
technically not
Paramount.
even real elite. Like the way that they do it, it doesn't actually break any laws.
No.
Because they're still reporting the loss. They're just changing where the loss is coming from.
Exactly.
By moving around the money.
Yeah.
So they're not trying to hide the loss. They're just trying to, obfuscate.
If Chapek had done something really severe, he wouldn't be getting his 23 million severance package.
Exactly.
And he would have been fired with cause. He was fired without cause. So there is something decidedly fishy about those accusations.
Oh yeah, I think he's being a scapegoat, if that's what you mean, as far as that part of it. But yeah, moving on from there, we've got High Dragon Star. That's what I think it is, High Dragon Star. Or H, is that an L? Could be, either way. Don't you know Iger was destroying Disney so he could sell it to his friends at Apple? Chapek was a fall guy to hide that fact. Well, this is one of the theories going around, especially through the financial papers or whatever you want to call them, that Iger's just setting it up for a sale to Apple, which there may be some fact to that.
That may be true, but I don't think that he deliberately wanted the company to fail. I mean, that's attributing malice where incompetence or ambition is quite sufficient motivation. Because really, him doing what he did to further some political agenda, and just by being a politician, that's reason enough that something is going to get tanked all on its own. Because that means that he didn't have the company's best interest in mind. He he made decisions with an ulterior motive, maybe assuming, company is strong, it can deal with this. But that is how you take huge corporations and make them huge bankruptcies.
Well, I pointed this out, like a month or two ago, Culture, you may recall, where basically all the studios are facing this crunch right now. Yeah. And if you've had as many failures as Disney has, you're going to feel it doubly so, or even quadruply so, or however you want to look at it. Like, look at a grand example is that Top Gun was the biggest film of this last year, right? Paramount is still technically in dire straits right now. They've been downgraded twice this year already?
Yeah.
So even the company that has the biggest film of the year right now is in the same kind of place Disney is. So that part I'm not surprised about, but this whole, like, the way they're acting right now this is the whole thing with the sale to Apple. And this is why the first time, even though through my joking of it all in the past, I still think it's possible, because if they're in as much financial trouble as we think they could be possibly, then that is not far from a possibility at this time. And we've actually talked about how this could be something that could happen, because otherwise, how else are they going to get out of this mess?
Well, it's weird because they've lost so much value, and this little Hail Mary to try to build the stock price back up is going to be just short-lived. Consider that they're down. The company's now worth about $99 billion after, all's said and done, after they settle everything out, all their liabilities. Their value to debt ratios it's not terrible, but it ain't good. I mean, and that's a lot of these entities are suffering under the weight of that, and they don't have a lot of long-term to build out of. I mean, again, Disney's cash cow has always been its parks, and you are about to see a campaign for park occupancy that we haven't seen in a long time. Like, go back to 2008. You're going to see discounts, steep discounts. In fact, Europe's already seeing them for people to come and visit the park at the beginning of the year going forward. So, and this is for hotel stays, packages, et cetera, et cetera. I wouldn't be surprised if they bring back the dining plan and offering it for free with vacation packages. You're going to see some changes in park offerings as far as the financials go. And they've pissed off their most valuable clients, the people who go all the time. So we'll see what happens though.
Then Vegas RoboCop, I like that. I like your icon, and I think Vegas would totally have a RoboCop. Anyway, do we really even care about Disney properties anymore? Marvel has been garbage forever. Yeah, you're not wrong, Vegas, but I do care. I do care about Marvel. I do care about Star Wars. I do care about these franchises to a point, even if apathy has set in quite a bit for mainly Star Wars. But, you know, things like Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special will remind me why Marvel was good, you know, at one time.
Yeah, and I would say 2.5 to 3 years isn't really forever, but I understand the hyperbole.
It does,
like forever because of how bad the movies we've gotten have been.
But just remember, we just got Spider-Man not too long ago, too. And most people enjoyed that, whether you did or not. Vegas RoboCop, I know that's subjective, but...
Yeah, no, I also agree. Like, I do care, certainly about Marvel. So there's a way back for them if they make the right moves.
I'll tell you, I'm looking more forward to Guardians of the Galaxy 3 after the holidays than I was before.
I mean, it's the only upcoming Marvel product I do care about is Guardians of the Galaxy 3, because I have faith in James Gunn. I don't no longer have in Marvel under Disney, but I do have in James Gunn.
That has got to be one of the funniest goddamn things I'd seen, and I don't know.
It was so heartwarming. It was amazing.
It was too, yes. That the ending was great, but like, just from beginning until that ending, I don't know if I've laughed that hard at anything for 45 minutes in a while. Like, not since Beavis and Butthead, but them were only half hours, right? So, like, God, it was fantastic. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on it, Andre, because I know you got a chance to see it finally, and I know you did Script, right? And Culture, I don't think did yet, but
I saw it. I thought it was fairly good. I predicted the heartwarming ending, like word for word, what Star-Lord was going to say. But I enjoyed it thoroughly. I really liked it, and I dug Kevin Bacon a lot in this. He really had a lot of fun with his role here.
I'm sorry, his cousin was killed by a GoBot.
That was probably one of the funniest parts I saw.
I was on the fucking floor. But anyway, yeah, I do care about Marvel still. Culture, are you even there?
Yes.
Okay. Do you care
about Marvel?
Star Wars, anything?
Very little.
All right. Adam Wolford says the second half of Dune is focused on Paul and his mother and Gurney Steelguard. Che and Baron, his two nephews. Irulan, it's said Irulung. Okay. Yeah, this is true, Adam. But point being is that I think the way the question was put to Denny and the way he was kind of answering it. In fact, I think, wasn't this translated on top of it, Andre?
I'm not
wasn't
sure.
This one of the foreign ones?
I don't know the original source for this interview.
Yeah, I can't remember. This might have been one of the ones that was the foreign ones where they were translating it anyway. So I think there may have been something, because I do remember saying this at the time. I was like, is this the exact translation, or are they just kind of fuzzy translating this?
Well, I mean, if he's saying that you get to see more of this
that's what I'm saying.
Person, yeah, that you get to see more of this young person that brings, you know, like the young folks to the yard, you know, that may have been all his intention was, just say, oh yeah, she's in it more.
I'm trying to remember now if that was one of the English ones or the other ones. But either way, yeah, her character is a bigger part of the story, so definitely she's going to be there in the second film. Call sign Alucard says it would be interesting to see how much PPP money was used during production, if a lot. This movie should be free to see for us.
Even free, I don't think I'd want to see it.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a good proposition, but I get what you're saying. The sentiment I understand and agree with. Big Daddy MRI sends in 1999. How you doing, Big Daddy? Says, howdy, Midnight's Edge in the morning. Fantastic discussion. We're glad you enjoyed it. Has anybody seen Devotion yet? No. I read the 411 on the movie, and the story, and the true story behind it looks exceptional. Maybe worth the watch. Great panel, great discussion. Thank you. I think you're the second person to bring it up today, Big Daddy. So I guess we're gonna have to look into this.
Is that the pilot Korean film?
I'm not sure what it is.
Well, I believe Chris Gore said it was good, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he was talking about it earlier. Yeah.
I think he said Alan saw it and said it was good.
He said Alan thought it was good.
Yeah, that's what he did. Yeah.
So we'll go with that for now, but it sounds like it may be something we have to look into if we've been brought up a few times now. OC Gigan, if I'm saying that right, says never got why people liked Avatar overrated lately. Yeah, I'm in this camp, OC. It was never my bag, baby, as Austin Powers would say, but a lot of people enjoyed it at the time. We have yet to see if it's going to live on in infamy in the sequel. We'll find out here in about a month.
And we'll find out soon enough.
Midnight Shawarma Llama? I think I said Shawarma? Shawarma? Is that what that is?
Shawarma.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought that word was.
Midnight Shawarma Llama. Shawarma Llama.
Got it. Any good Halloween, Jesus Christ, Hollywood Insider sites or podcasts? Any sites like Film Thread or Bounding into Comics? Also, what's really going on between the Bobs? Okay, well, as far as the ones you've mentioned already are great. We tend to use quite a few of them. There's probably more that I would say that I wouldn't trust before the ones that I would. There's middling grounds here and there, but as far as like anything
Puck is a good one.
Puck is pretty good. Bleeding Fool, not Bleeding Cool.
Not Bleeding Fool.
Bleeding Fool.
Yeah, I meant. Two very different things.
Two very different things. Of course, we know the guys over at Bounding. They're great guys. And of course, Chris over at Film Threat. Those guys, of course, also as well. Gosh, who else could I think? I can't think offhand now.
Well, of course, there's our good friend
Mikey Sutton,
Mikey over at Geekosity Magazine for like entertainment scoops that often pan out, not always, but quite often.
Yeah, avoid like giant freaking robot, and I mean, I
was avoiding trying to mention anybody by name, but yeah, that's the thing. The giant freaking robots and what's the other one that everybody uses?
Oh, there's a lot of them.
We got this covered or whatever.
And something starting with Mary.
Oh, the Mary Sue. Yeah, fuck them.
Yeah, but they don't really do any news. They just do absolute shit takes that you think.
That's true.
Yeah, like they don't give any news. They just comment on them and either praise something that audiences hate or condemn something that audiences love. One of the two.
Yeah, and then Salty Nerd does a lot of good talking. Sci-Fi for Me TV does a great job covering the
Jason.
news.
Yeah, Jason and the Matt.
Of course, you're watching us already, so.
Hi.
Yeah. Yeah. But there you go. And then as far as what's really going on between the Bobs,
well, nothing anymore because one of them is out. And so the remaining here. Bob will have dropped the ousted Bob like hot potato.
I would say there's something substantial between the Bobs right now. It's called an NDA.
Well, this is true. Yes, you have that. They will forever be bound by that NDA.
Indeed do. Then we've got Steven Simmons who says, how long until people admit that The Rock is not a real box office draw? After Thanksgiving weekend, Black Adam hasn't pulled its budget domestically. This is true. And I've been saying this for a long time, Steven. As much as I enjoyed Black Adam, here's the thing. I don't think they were expecting Black Adam to do great. Now, I'm sure it underperformed compared to what they were hoping. But it did beat The Rock's other solo premieres. So in that sense, it's a success. Now, depending on how it does here on the video side of things, because it did shoot to the top of the charts this last week, I guess, from what I had read. So I think they'll do all right on that. Now, will they make their money back? Who knows? But at this point, it's kind of like a reverse loss leader for Discovery, because this was money that was spent before they were even part of the equation.
Yeah.
So Andre, I think you know how to explain that a little better than I do, as far as this is more or less just a barometer for Zaslav to go by.
Yeah, exactly. Where Black Adam is concerned for the future of DC, they had, in a sense, written it off before the movie was even released. Because it's a product of the previous administration. They're going in a slightly different direction anyway. So all they did was to clean that movie up as much as they could, remove the messaging, and just make it as entertaining as they could. Put it into the theaters and hope for the best, but no one expected it to do substantially more than it did, because they know very well that the DC brand as it is right now is damaged and needs to be rebuilt, and that rebuilding process is going to take some time. So the real expectations, they're going to be on the movies that come from the Zaslav and James Gunn regime. not really anything that was initiated by the previous administration. It only has to do bare minimum, and if it does that, if it doesn't lose them or too much, or most importantly, if it doesn't damage the DC brand, then that's really all they're expected to do.
And that's kind of what I mean. If anything, I've been told from my birdies was that, yeah, it underperformed compared to what they were hoping it would, but basically the fans liked it. It got a positive rating among the fans, so that's what matters. So basically whatever changes were made to the movie worked in that respect. Now, they didn't translate into box office business necessarily, but I think this movie will have legs on video. They rushed it out to streaming. It's going to come on video in January, as far as proper disc anyway.
Yeah,
So-
and more importantly, as you said, audiences liked it. That means that it helps in building goodwill for the DC brand going forward.
Exactly.
And that's the only thing the movie really has to do. But we have plenty more super chats, so
Absolutely.
let's move on here.
We've got Basara549 who says people made a logical case that humans good guys. Oh, in the Strange World thing. Yeah. Well,
I didn't see it, never will, but
I can't really speak to that. STR Red Wolf said Super Mario Brothers will make money, namely because there's a ton of Super Mario Brothers players, including speedrunners, fans, etc. See games done quick.
Yeah, and not only that, there's a ton of Mario Kart players of all ages, including young kids that have no idea of the Super Mario games proper, but they become fans of Mario through everything else. So I agree. I think that movie is going to be popular with the kids.
I think it will be. And please don't misunderstand what I said. I just said I don't think it's going to be a world beater. I didn't say it wasn't going to make money. I just said I didn't think it'd make that much money. So
I think it's going to be a slap on Disney's face. It's going to be a big old Italian dick
well,
slap
that wouldn't take much nowadays, Tom.
from the Japanese. John Thomas says, how far can Disney go claiming Chepek, like that, was playing with the numbers without making it criminal and taking out the CFO? Also, this is the point that, these guys were just making here. She's really pretty ruthless, reportedly.
I can answer that. They can't go much further at all. If they want to go much further, they have to do something formal, or they just have to shut up. They've already put out the innuendo. They can't do much more before they will be in violation of some kind of agreement, or someone is going to start asking for some further investigation. So they can't do much more at all.
Mm. All right. And then we got Taryn the Black who says, dude, Mario is going to make near $1 billion. So there's one on my side there. At least, I mean, I have nothing invested in this. I don't like Mario or anything for any reason. Like, honestly, I kind of like the Sonic games more than I do Mario, but yeah.
Yeah, me too. Hell yeah.
But as far as like a character goes with more to work with story-wise and recognize being a recognizable character, Mario. STR Red Wolf says, breaking via NPR, crypto company BlockFi, am I saying it right, Culture? Declares bankruptcy after FTX bailed them out before FTX's bankruptcy.
Yeah,
plus regulatory issues.
Yeah, that press release was flying early this morning. Jason over at Sci-Fi sent it over to me, and I perused through it. There are a lot of individual entities all tied up in that, and it looks rough. So, yeah, this FTX thing was much more broadly distributed than maybe we even realize even now.
Yeah, I think it may have something to do with this Disney thing. I think there's something to that. Commandant VHS says, great stream, lots of great guests, very informative. Well, we try to just about every time we have a stream here, Commandant. That's what we strive to do. Lost for Words has been a member for 10 months at the Midnighter level. Thank you so much. And then Lost for Words sent us in a super sticker. Let me see what it is here. It is, where did it go? It was right here. Lost for Words. Where is it? I'm at a loss for words about it. It is a pair character stretching his arm forward, raising his thumb up. Thank you so much. Lost for words. And then we've got Mad Max, who says, in 1997, Martin Scorsese made a film with an entirely Asian cast with Kundun, and Disney buried it. Release to appease China. I remember that. It is still difficult to find good copy online. Simu Liu is lying. Oh yeah. Well,
that we knew.
We got into this. I think a little bit. Did we get into it on Friday or not? But I can't remember. I know we got into it.
We did get into it on Friday.
And I've ranted about it enough online and other places. Like, first of all, they're coming after Tarantino pretty hardcore right now for some reason because of that comment. And then now they're trying to paint him as a sexist, misogynistic, racist. It's like, are you effing kidding me? Like, not only is that the dumbest thing I ever heard, that is the stupidest thing, because the motherfucker made Jackie Brown, Kill Bill. Most of his movies have a strong female lead character in them. Inglourious Bastards comes to mind. So like this whole idea is just nonsense. And I think you could make a good point here. I remember that now. I totally spaced that out too, though, Mad Max, till you brought it up. But yeah. So
thanks for the support and moving on.
We got E-Man357 who says, speaking of Bruce Willis, it was his condition made Glass second half so unsatisfying like production. Story can only go so far as his condition was. E-Man,
no,
I
actually no,
don't think so.
Because if you had a problem with the story itself, then that has nothing to do with Willis' performance. You can see from like all of his later movies of the last few years that his acting, he's kind of been phoning it in. Now we know why. But his performance has nothing to do with the plot and structure of the movie itself. That's just him phoning it in. Or seemingly phoning it in. So no, that would have had nothing to do with it. If he just acts robotic in scenes, then that has nothing to do with the plot, and I think that was a bigger part of.
And
Glass.
they may not even have been aware of it yet, at least as far as outside of Bruce's camp.
Yeah, exactly. The second half of Glass is failing. That's entirely on Shyamalan.
M. Night is one of those at this point. He makes a good movie on fucking accident. That's kind of where we're at with him. I've decided that. Because like I said, even Sixth Sense doesn't really hold up as much. To me, still his best movie is Unbreakable. So, anyhow, moving on. Sorry about that. We got Joshua Martin here, says Kennedy is a huge, huge problem for Disney. Yeah, but they're never going to admit it.
If anything, she has been such a huge problem before that she has destroyed Lucasfilm. So she's ironically a less problem for them right now because they've already written off Lucasfilm. So they have bigger problems than just that one. But she's definitely one of the big problems they have.
And Default Name sends in $8. Thank you so much. And says, I believe the biggest problem with Disney is the same reason why most everybody left at Twitter are men. Wesley Vassar grads are toxic. Did I say that right?
I'm not familiar with Wellesley Vassar, but I can only imagine that that's
Vassar,
some kind of institution.
College. Yeah.
Oh, Vassar. Jesus fucking Christ, Tom. Thank you, Culture.
Yeah, so I'm guessing that this is some kind of like misandrist education or institution.
Culture, you want to do this so I don't fuck it up? Explain Vassar to Andre, please.
No, please. I would rather you do it.
No!
I want you to screw it up.
No? I don't need to get us canceled. Anyway.
Andre, you're along the right lines.
Yeah,
that's kind of like what I'm thinking. So with that, we will Google it for later and move on.
Yeah. Mario Trillo says, if someone would like to make a Midnight's Edge anime manga, a Weeb's Night Edge, if you will, would you guys be cool with that? Hails Midnight's Edge. Well, Mario, we've actually we have this in the planning stages. We can't give a time frame right now, but as far as like somebody else doing it without our being a part of it, we wouldn't quite be cool with it.
Yeah,
but it is something.
If someone with the know-how were to come with us and say, "Hey, I can totally help you with that," that would be a different matter.
And that is kind of what the plan is, but we just haven't got to that point yet. So until then, keep it in mind, and we will get back to that, and we'll let people know when that's getting to be closer to being a possibility. So
yeah,
I'm sure we'll get plenty of applications, but we'll keep you in mind, Mario. So thank you for that. And then we have Marksman of 11-7B. I showed my young nephew The Sea Beast, a monster hunting Netflix animated movie that happened to be naturally diverse. It was a fun story of legacy. Now, I haven't seen this yet, but I did hear a little bit about it, so I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed it. Has anybody else here seen it by chance?
I have not, but if you enjoyed it and it's naturally diverse without it being forced, then perfect. Glad you enjoyed it.
That's always a good thing.
No, I haven't seen it, but I'll check it out.
We got Master Clockwork here who says, if I hadn't seen or hadn't been told Jesus Christ, Doctor Strange, I need to eat. Strange World is Disney animation film. I'd have never guessed. Looks more like something DreamWorks cranked out on the cheap. Yeah, you're probably...
It
looks generic as fuck.
I don't think that DreamWorks could have made something as shitty.
Not as shitty, no.
It looks like a really, really bad remake, a wokified remake of Here Comes the Grump, because it has that color palette. And that is all pink and stuff, pink and rainbows. And moving on from there, we have a member chat from Mecha J, who says, former Sonic the Hedgehog writer Ken Penders recently shared on Twitter the vulture costume made for Sam Raimi's scrapped Spider-Man 4 movie.
I saw that.
Yeah. And we've actually had Ken Penders on, as I'm sure Mecha J knows, but for any new people watching, we have an interview with Kevin Penders, or Ken Penders. It was so big that it took place over 3 parts. It's in the Star Interviews playlist, so check it out there.
Yeah. And then we got, let's see here, Marksman of 11B, who says Coco, the film that Disney tried to copyright the holiday Day of the Dead and pissed off Latinos and Mexicans everywhere. Only Disney would try that. Was Coco, or was that with Encanto? I thought that was Encanto they tried.
No, I think it was Coco.
Was it Coco? Maybe you're right.
I think so.
You're probably right.
Yeah.
You're probably right. Jesus Davila sends us a super sticker. I'm willing to bet it's a thumbs up, but I will double check here. Let's see here. Where we go? That's lost for words, so it's bound that one. I can't find it here. Jesus Davila, thumbs up. There we go. Thank you so much, Jesus Davila. And then we got Primer here who says, what'll be Iger's excuse for Indiana Jones 5?
Kathy did it.
Kathy did.
That'll be his excuse.
The buck stops with me from here on out on Indiana Jones.
That's what he's going to say about that.
There were mistakes made with Indiana Jones, but now the buck stops with me.
Yeah.
Marksman of 11-7B says Avatar will make money. Don't underestimate the amount of money furries have to spend. Their audience really love the blue-skinned cat people.
Do they? It's
well,
I don't know. I don't know
it's a
enough
very
about
sub-level community. Are they even furry?
That would help, but I don't know that furries would take it to where it needs to go.
I mean, are they really even technically furry? I mean,
I don't know. I don't know enough about furries to be able to answer.
Yeah. I mean, I could see a subgroup, but that would be so limited by now. That yeah. Michael Laparco says there is a serious FTX connection between Apple and Disney. Elon knows this. The heat is on. No, sorry. The heat is not because of the free speech. Elon is the Joker, not Tony Stark. Interesting. As far as the connection with Elon, what do you guys think?
I don't know. I would rather wait to see how this plays out. I know that Elon and Apple are not on the best of terms right now.
Especially right now.
Yeah, especially right now. So I think that there's going to be like a breakdown in that relationship, and we're going to learn more about it. I mean, this is the dude who owns Twitter. If he wants to do something to throw shade on Apple, he has every opportunity to do so.
Yeah. For those who don't know, the beef right now is they want to charge 30% for apps.
Well, they have been. It's not they want to.
That's what he's blowing the lid
Yeah,
on.
and the bigger thing is that they're also cutting out advertising on Twitter more and more, like Apple's own ads. So yeah, but leaving that aside, George is in the chat, and he sent us $49.99, so $50. Thank you, George. That is really appreciated. And he says, "All hail Midnight's Edge. Love how you all peel back the layers of Hollywood, exposing not only the rot, but also the rare gems, giving everyone a graduate degree in the insanity of movie making. Wishing you all the best." Oh, thank you, George. We'll have to have you on one of these days again. We miss having you here.
Yeah. And yes, making a movie, you have to be insane to want to make a movie. Culture, please tell me a joke, says Elf. Not like the ones you told last night.
I got people being mean to me when I was telling jokes last night, so I'm
they
taking
were
a
worse
break.
than dad jokes.
Okay.
No, go ahead and tell a joke.
I don't have a good one right now. You guys didn't even laugh at my good. I had a good limbo joke. You didn't even laugh.
Tell the limbo joke.
No, because everybody already heard it.
Well, just do a knock joke so we can move on with the super chats.
Cooper, Jesus.
All right, well, here we go. So a guy walks into a bar, and he promptly loses the limbo contest. There's the joke.
Hey, that was funny.
Liar.
Two blondes walk into a bar. You'd think they would have stopped after the first one. Action Com says first episode of Tulsa King is free on YouTube. Is it? Well, I suggest you do yourself a favor and check out Tulsa King, because it is one of the greatest fucking shows I've seen in a long time as far as new shows. And they just had a new episode last night, and I was so pissed when it ended, and I was pissed because it ended. That's what a show needs to do. There you go. Check out Tulsa King. I can't recommend it enough. You seen it yet, Andre?
No, not yet. It's on my list of things to do. But that list is long, and the end of the month is just about here, so it's going to have to wait a few more days.
Well, this is one you should put. I was going to say, really push up your list because it's worth it.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen it yet, Script?
Not yet, but it's on my queue.
Awesome. I think Culture has seen a little bit of it, but he hasn't saw the whole thing yet. From my
no, I did. I couldn't finish it. Yeah.
All right, so do check that out. Mr. Melange says everyone was bragging about Black Panther's opening weekend, etc. How much money does it need to make worldwide to break even after marketing taxes, etc.?
It's getting
Culture?
closer. It's getting closer. It's likely going to break even or make some profit here in the next week or so, 2 weeks. It had a pretty good haul on the 5-day, 64 million, I think, which is a nice kick above where I thought it would be. And even where they thought it would be, they thought it might make a $50 million kick on the 5-day.
Yeah, but it's far below where they hoped and had planned that it would be. Because they were planning on $1 billion movie, and they ain't getting that. So while it won't lose any money, it's still a disappointment in Disney's internal projections.
I'm not so sure about the not losing money, because didn't the movie end up costing more than they initially said? Because didn't this one cost $250?
Yeah, it was $250,
and it got the bigger of the advertising budgets too.
Yeah, it got $150 million ad kick.
So right there, that's 250 plus 150. That's $400 million.
Right. I think it's going to finish just under $1 billion.
No, that had to make $1 billion. Not even to just break. That's not even a break-even point yet. Like you're talking more like 1.2 billion to be a break.
Yeah, I know, but like you said, I mean, they had a companion advertisement campaign of $100 million.
Even if it's still pretty close.
Partnerships they had.
Yeah, they were banking on this thing making over $1 billion. Basically.
Yeah, I like you said, I think it's going to finish just under $1 billion. So,
I don't think it's even going to come close to it. I think it's going to be well shy. We'll see. Well, not well shy, but enough, at least within 100 or 2 million shooting distance anyway. STR Red Wolf says US furries would be curious, but an Avatar 2 will need a damn good plot for it to even carry it among the furry community. I don't even think there's enough furries in the world to make the money this movie would need. Nothing personal. I just don't think there's that many people enough.
Even if furries are very keen to spend money on furry products that are made right, and all respect to them for that. I don't think there's.
My point is like every furry in the world could buy a ticket, and it's still like kind of like with the bros thing, right? Like the point I made. Every gay person in the world could have bought a ticket to bros, and it still probably wouldn't have made enough money to make back its budget, right? Or at least in the U.S. specifically. But yeah. Action Com says, "Can you of you brilliant minds explain to me the he keeps
and any
joke in short? Well, that's easy." Whatever God wants, he keeps. So they get to keep all of it because they know God's not going to take any of it. That's the joke. Oh, I get it. What God wants, he keeps. It's a great joke. Taker 610 says Andor was a dire attempt to make Cassian Andor into an interesting character. If anything, anyone who associates with him ends up dead or worse. You got a point. I never thought of it that way. Everybody he comes into contact with pretty much dies. Oh, Lord. Then we got Master Clockwork who says, I'll rewatch The Abyss instead of The Snorks. You got a good point there. I'd rather watch The Abyss.
I thought it was a good film. That's just me, though.
The Abyss? Yeah. That's back when James Cameron was firing on all cylinders, not now. Goku McDuck says, Andre, can you say
Diamond Power
from Saint Seiya?
I have no idea what a Saint Seiya is, but I can say Diamond Power. Yeah, sure.
And then Wolven Weaver, that's a heck of a name, says Mario Kart 8 has sold over 50 million units at $60 a piece. Potential audience for this movie is enormous. The film is good. Look at
that's what I'm saying. Don't underestimate Mario Kart 8. Mario Kart 8 is huge for the kids.
Did you see the buzz the movie got? People griping. I guarantee you the next trailer we see is going to be Chris Pratt coming on going, hey, it's me, Mario. Make sure he sounds extra Italian.
Well, he's freaking well better, but then he's going to be accused of like
they won't care at this point.
Italians or something. But
the amount of backlash they got after that came out.
Well, they don't care if that movie performs as
exactly.
It can, it's all is going to be forgiven.
That's going to be this movie's Sonic.
Kart 8. I mean, like Mario Kart 8. That's a beast.
There you go. And then
I never played it, but
yeah. Well, I know the kids ate up the Mario Kart stuff, so there you go. Incogcheeto sends in $10. Well, adults do too, for that matter. Hello, it's been a while. I had a friend that his shed got broken into. Oh no! And the criminals stole his costume-made limbo stick. Custom made, Jesus. He had to ask the man, "How low can you go?"
Yeah, there you go.
That was better than your joke. I love you, culture. Stop being such a sap.
What did the ocean say to the beach?
What did the ocean say to the beach?
Nothing. He just waved.
You see there? That's a good one. Now we're talking.
There you go. You got a badum ching. And then Goku McDuck says, sorry, it is Diamond Dust by Cygnus Yoga. So you got to say Diamond Dust.
Diamond Dust. Okay. I can say Diamond Dust too. No problem.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then George sends in another night. Well, thank you so much, George.
Well, thank you, George.
One Disney is like a hooker who got a tattoo of Kathleen Kennedy on one inner thigh and one of Kevin Feige on the other. She tells every customer, if you can name both of them, I'll give you one for free.
Wow.
It continues.
Number 2, customer replies, I don't know about those two, but the one in the middle is Bob Iger. There's a joke for you. All hail.
Thanks,
He
George.
evidently was listening at the beginning when I let my feelings be known.
Oh, yeah, that matches. That's matches. That's a callback now.
Yes.
And that, my friends, is everything. So do run yourself over to Film Threat. Check out Cameron's Patreon. Check out Script Doctor's channel. Check out Culture's channel. What else, Andre? Did I miss anybody?
Well, check out George the Giant Slayer's
George
channel.
the Giant
Yeah.
Slayer's channel.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
And check out Toxic Femininity.
Oh, tonight.
Yeah, it should be. I haven't
Yes.
heard anything else.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have a video coming tomorrow. Now, are anyone into Graham Hancock and Ancient Apocalypse? Because that's the next video.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
All right. And
I
with
already-
that,
I already put out 4 videos today my own self.
Oh yeah, that's brilliant. How's the flooding YouTube with the videos going?
Fun. It's fun. I'm gaining subscribers.
Perfect. Yeah, everyone, go check out Cultured Casino, of course. Link to everyone is in the description. So with that, thanks to everyone for joining today. Smash that like if you haven't done so already on your way out the door. Check back for Toxic Femininity. Check back tomorrow for Graham Hancock video. And with that, it is time for some koalas in the rain.
Koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given, koala, koala, koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given, koala, koala, koalas in the rain.